Well, that's the funny thing is, so this is the problem. This is the problem you run into when it's not live, is you don't feel compelled, because I could just be like, I'm just going to cut this part out.
Yeah. So
you don't feel compelled. Like, if we were like, if I was pressing a Twitch button to go live, I would be like, trying to think already something witty to say.
Right.
And then there would be that. So this part will be in there. All right, Josh, how was your week?
Oh, man. Not too much went on. Still slowly trudging along. Fire Emblem was also playing. I know you and I talked about it, that Blossom Tales.
Blossom Tales is pretty good. It's the Zelda knot.
Yeah, literally in the beginning, they're like, "Have I told you about the story of the legend of?" They're like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
But that's an interesting.
I've always had mixed feelings about love letter games, right?
Yeah.
It's like you want to be like, "Wow, this is great," but sometimes the tribute becomes too much of a tribute to the point where you're like, all right, we get it. You really like Zelda. This just feels... so when I played Blossom Tales a while back on Steam, that's the problem I ran into, where it was fun, but then I just felt like I was playing Legally Distinct Zelda, where I was just like, I could just be playing Link to the Past or something like that. Now, it has its own charms, too. Some of the puzzle mechanics and stuff are fairly unique to it.
Yeah, or like how the items work. Like the bombs actually use the magic meter rather than being a consumable. I think the bow and arrow works the same way too.
There's a few things it does where it doesn't inherently come as entirely a quote-unquote... Like a rip-off, and I hate to say it a rip-off, but that's basically what some love letter games come off as. It's too much like, whatever. Yeah. The other thing, love letter... Awesome. I just threw a $300 watch of the fucking thing and missed so bad. Anyways, it's one of those things where...
Please donate to PayPal. There's a good time to plug in a PayPal link where you can donate.
There's a Patreon for my watch that just died. No, but it's one of those things where then you run into the thing of it not living up to... At least this one's a case of it's on par, dare I say. I know all the people that got mad I gave Breath of the Wild 7 out of 10 is going to... get mad now that I'm saying that Blossom Tales is as good as Zelda. But what I mean by that is on a technical, mechanical level, it's put together competent enough where at least there's that, right? For example, character action games that have come out since Bayonetta or Devil May Cry, when they're bad, they feel bad because now I have a precedence of like comparing it to the OG ones, whether it's Clover or Platinum. Surprise, same people. Now I have a thing where I'm just comparing it to that, but now it's falling short. But anyways.
Yeah. So moving on from that.
God damn it.
Yeah. Friday, I started making the Goof Gunpla. Actually finally finished it today. I was just waiting for the mono eye to dry out and then did the weapons and shit. So that's finally done. And now I started that little bust I showed you. So I'm working on that one.
Sorry, that doesn't come across well on audio. I nodded my head.
Yes.
Josh didn't just get awkwardly like quiet. It wasn't so awkwardly quiet.
Just turn on the descriptive service.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I'm nodding my head. I'm like, this is gonna come across good on an audio podcast.
Yeah. So started that today. Then after that, I'll probably work on the Zaku unless I end up.
Zaku.
Is that the one you posted on Instagram?
Yeah, the blue one. Yeah. So I finished that. It's on my shelf now.
Nice.
So yeah. It looks really nice. What the fuck?
That was weird.
Yeah, like the goof was kind of always one of my favorites, just because some of the characters, like the famous characters that piloted them, like Ramba Ral and Norris Packard from 8th MS Team. I'm showing a photo of it on my shelf.
There you go. See,
it's very pretty and blue.
We have to have the captions on. Yeah. When we plug Josh's Insta, you'll be able to see it on there. That's nice looking.
Yeah, well, like I complimented I'll post on Instagram later.
Like I complimented you yesterday when we were looking at your models, is that you did a good job when I wasn't sure whether they were models or figures. Mm-hmm. See, some of the ones I did, of course, granted I was really little when I did some of those Gundam models. The paint was like, obviously, if I put the figure next to it, you'd be like, okay, I know which one the kid did. Yeah. But, so yeah. But.
Yeah, and I think probably the most annoying part was painting the eye. But with the Zaku, because it's this, you have to do a tiny little dot. Oh. So, yeah, so I'm there with a paintbrush, and it's just like really hard to like, because this is a tiny piece. I showed him what it was. I had it on this stick. So I'm having to hold that and then get this brush, and it's like, try to nail it right on there. You can even tell.
You're just dropping everything tonight.
Yeah, you're just gonna drop.
It's just not gonna work. Getting it on the
shelf. I'm gonna lift my computer.
At least drop some beats. Like, if you look at...
Got the dropsies.
Oh, who was that?
What?
It's almost like we had a guest on the line.
Oh, man. He must have thought somebody was dropping combos.
Threw a wrench into things.
No,
you're good.
Cool,
that was eventually going to happen, and I was wondering how many guests in that was going to be a thing. I was really surprised it didn't, because there were a few times where we did stuff where I did feel was either laugh-worthy or should have been commented on that didn't. I was like, man, they're either not listening, which is probably the case, or they're doing a very good job. Yeah. So we have Mr. Dick. Hey, okay, this was going to be part of your segment. We're just going to prematurely do it now. How do you say your actual screen name? Because I would butcher that into infinity on what your handle is.
It is Shujinkydink.
Oh.
To who we're gonna...
An original, right?
There you go.
The original Shujinkydink.
To who we're
if you
gonna
Google it, I'm the only thing that comes up.
Oh, there you go. And that's the thing. So, there's going to be a thing on that later from Mallory. But anyways, but yeah, so Dink...
Why is that pointed at me?
So we're going to lovingly refer him to as Dink on the podcast. But for those...
that is my preferred pronoun, thank you.
There you go. Yeah, Dink is a fighting game man. But we're gonna get to him. Josh, anything else?
I think that pretty much covers my week. Listening to a lot of, while working on my gun club, and listening to a lot of Adventure Zone, which is a D&D podcast.
I always see the thumbnail for it, but I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah.
Is that the one you've been listening to, like when we're in the car sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have it on there. They released their second episode of their current ongoing story, which is the third one, called Graduation, which the premises for that is interesting. So the characters are attending a school for being sidekicks or henchmen. Ooh. So the way the world works is you have heroes and villains, but they're not necessarily like good or evil.
Okay, I like that. I'm always down for that.
So they're just kind of under the employ of certain towns or areas to kind of be like, hey, help spice up the area, so we'll hire a villain, they'll kind of do their thing, then the hero will come up, and then advertise, come visit our shitty town. And that's kind of the premise of the world, so I thought that was really neat. So, and it's also different because... a new, he's DM'd one of their small little one-shot segments they've done when they're kind of trying to decide what to do next, but this is going to be like the first main campaign that he's DMing on that podcast. And then I'm also re-listening to the first story arc that they did. So, it's really fun, so definitely recommend checking them out if anybody's into D&D. Yep.
Miss Mallory?
Well, me and my family decided that we're going to start playing D&D.
All right, good story. All right, so this
week...
No, I was joking. Go.
Whatever.
Finally
so my brother-in-law's going to DM for us, but whatever. I watched the Mandalorian today, which was really awesome.
The Mandalorian or the Metalorian?
The Metalorian.
It's just a person that knows all the lore of the meta. But what meta?
We're not sure.
I watched that today. Yeah, I watched Has Been Hotel, which is hilarious.
It's good. It's really
good. My
good.
roommate was uncomfortable, but that's because like he's very religious and I'm not, so that was fun.
Well, yeah, the whole series takes place in hell.
Yeah, it's hilarious though.
Is it like when people got really uncomfortable by Good Omens? Is that kind of thing where it's not necessarily satanic, but it's like, oh, you're talking about the Satan and the God. That's no, we don't. Yeah. That's not a funny thing.
Yeah, and it just like, but it's exactly what you expect hell to be like. So, but it was just funny because like he was telling me about it, and I was like, I haven't seen it yet. So we were sitting there watching it, and he was uncomfortable. And I was like, whatever. I'm over there laughing like a crazy person because I just find everything about that show like hilarious.
Yeah.
The jokes are really good. Super dark humor though. So, and then I watched Atypical on Netflix. I watched that whole series. It's really good. It's about an autistic boy and his challenges. And it's pretty cool. I love his humor. He's really into penguins. I played Outer Worlds a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It was really good. Very pretty game. Super impressed by it.
I'm very curious how the Switch port of that's going to be. Because
I
so far, like I said, most Switch ports have been impressive compromises, like the smart compromises. MK is probably one of the few I regret buying on Switch. But overall, like Witcher and stuff like that, surprisingly, like, you know, I had some fucker on one of my feeds that was just like, the graphics are watered down, aren't they? And I'm just like, you know, shit.
No, don't.
Like, this shit is like, the power of the Switch is like literally like 1/4 of a PlayStation Pro even.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think? But you're supposed to look at it from a technical Marvel point of view of like the fact that I'm playing The Witcher to go and it still looks as good as it even does on there, which is not bad. Especially ever since I switched
if it was just RuneScape.
Oh my god, I think I would somehow still love that. If like how in Dragon Quest XI they have the 16-bit mode and then the full 3D, but like with Witcher it just becomes like really fucking bare bones. Oh my god, I don't know. Part of me kind of would want that. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, Outer Worlds is interesting, so I'm very curious to see how it's going to look on Switch.
Yeah.
But we'll find out the first quarter
very
next year.
curious about it.
But so far you're digging it?
Yeah, it's so pretty. I talked to my brother about it because he's playing it.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, "Oh, it's a lot like Fallout," and I was like, "Shut up!" I was like,
Do you know who designed this
Yeah, it's
game?
always idiot. It's like did you tell him it's like a Fallout that actually works?
Yeah, I was like, because he was telling me about Fallout 76, and I was like, I hate that game. I'm not gonna do it. And he was like, yeah, but there's still like 5 people playing, and I was like, yeah, I know, like leave it alone. He's like,
I want to say that the amount of people playing Fallout 76 is probably on par with the people playing Battleborn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Fallout 76 isn't like $5 yet.
Not yet.
So we talked about that. He hasn't played it as much as I have because he's been playing Battlefield, which I don't play because I don't see a point in playing that game, or playing Call of Duty, which all my friends are playing, and they're like, "You need to get it." I'm like, "No, not doing that. Thanks, guys." Clearly, they don't listen to the podcast, and I know that.
If they did, they would know not to play those games.
But so I did that. Watched a lot of Netflix. Watched a lot of YouTube. Worked a lot. Went for a run. Oh, I did Community Day for Pokemon Go. Because I don't have the funds to buy the new Pokemon game that all my family has.
I really thought you were just going to start listing the most mundane nonsense that you've been doing. I was going to say, did she not gather the concept of this segment? She's then I brushed my teeth.
Right.
And then I woke up around 10:45 this morning and went back to sleep for a little bit longer. Like when your alarm goes off and you hit snooze.
Sound like a
that
noir
was just
diary.
to get my brain working on what else I've done this week because it's been pretty busy. But I did the Community Day and I did the raids for Pokemon Go. And I think that's about it. I ate at some point this week, so that's good.
Hopefully. That would probably be a good thing to eat.
So, how's your week been, Patrick?
My week...
You woke up?
I woke up this morning and I said, do I want to wake up ever again? Okay. And then I wondered that for a little bit. No, anyways. So, now it's the same. Still, more Hat in Time, more Witcher. Been interesting not having the ability to stream those at all because I forfeit that option when I switch to the Switch Lite. So, until I get my full unit again in February, wherever that season comes around where I'm going to buy another one. Until then, it's been fine though. I mean, there's a lot of other shit I need to work on that it's honestly helped me because since I can't stream a lot of that stuff,
just put your camera right over it.
So I did see there was a YouTube video I saw that of course had a fucking bait as fuck title like the only way to it wasn't necessarily a lie, but the YouTube phrasing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing those thumbnails where I always look like I just took a shit and I'm holding my Switch and then it's just gonna say like last game to come out for Switch, and I bet you
right?
I will get like 500,000 views, but I'll also want to die. So there's that. And then the next video will be like lost my will to live, and it'll just be me face palming with like a weird background where I'm like in front of an In-N-Out. But anyway,
they just talk about how they fucked up your order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've I not often, but I have wondered sometimes about doing that one of these days because I think I put too much production quality into my stuff. When I've seen stuff that blows up and then I've seen my stuff, I'm like, man, I put too much effort in my stuff. My thumbnails are all clean and nice looking in HD. It's not a fucking 4x3 photo cropped into fucking 16:9 and looks like shit.
I mean, sadly, clickbait works.
It does, and that's why I've always wondered one of these days about doing like something. Like the closest thing we have to clickbait is in the podcast liner notes. I do really smart ass. All the links are fucking just me poking fun at stuff or like making a shitload of puns about each article that we reference. That's about the closest thing where I'm a little indirect about the content. But other than that, it's just what it is. Like, you know, a lot of our podcast titles is just something we said in the episode at one point that is like the last one, for example, Okay Bokeh Boomer, like, I was just like, that's the title of the podcast. There's no, you know, question around it. Right, that wasn't anything to do with my week. So Witcher and... oh, right, I didn't even tell what the video was about. So it's going to be like, what was the video about? Okay, we're going on all sorts of tangents. It's going to be an hour-long episode about our weekly recap, and then Dink's just going to log off. But
it's like, never mind, good.
What it was is, all the guy did was, it was weird, too, because he explained that, like, smartphone cameras aren't as shitty as they used to be. So what I did is I took a tripod, I put it in front of my Switch, and then got an OTG cable and ran that to my TV. So it's running that, and it's basically just the feed from my camera of the Switch screen. And I was just like, I'm not fucking doing that. No.
That's a lot.
I'm just going to buy another Switch at that point. But anyways, but yeah, that's been fun. Just more Witcher and Hat in Time. Both really good. I've been really debating on just putting The Witcher on the back burner for now, and then playing something I haven't already beat. But The Witcher is really good, so I'm just kind of like, I'm in that thing. You know, but then again, I've also just been thinking about doing it to do more playthroughs of stuff I have already played before, like another playthrough of Astral Chain, although there would be a point to that in New Game Plus. Or it's been sitting there, Final Fantasy 12 again on the Switch this time, which would be... It looks really good on Switch, but that's basically been my week. Mr. Dink, since you've already introduced a long time ago, and then everyone has to remember now that you're there, how has your week been?
My week's been not bad. I've been playing the ever-loving shit out of Three Houses. I'm on my 4th playthrough now, the final one, the Crimson Flower route. So that's been a blast.
I know. I haven't even beaten the first one. Shit. Wait.
Oh man, I'm so addicted to this game. It's really bad. I've been playing it like every night. It's just, I don't know. It's probably the best game I think I've ever played. Like the amount that it keeps you busy and the amount of different stuff you can do. From like, if you don't really care for the battling, you can go and do, you can go fishing, you can go gardening. I mean, the storylines are so deep. Every character has like new interactions with every single other character. It's just like, there's so much that just keeps you coming back for more in that game. It's an unbelievably good game. Like if I was a professional reviewer, which I'm not, so take this with a grain of salt, I would give it a 10 out of 10 for sure.
Nice. That's very high praise. And so this is directed to you, Dink, and Josh, since you guys are both probably the biggest Fire Emblem people. Like I'm not, and Mallory, no. Of the Fire Emblem games, it's going to be. It's a two-part question. It's a two-part question in the sense of, is it still a... You know how like some games evolve to the point where they're not really what they used to be? Is it still a Fire Emblem game in its essence? And in that sense, that would therefore make it probably the... Would you each say it's the best entry? Well, Dink probably would. Josh, would you say it's the best entry in the series by far?
I don't know about the best entry, but it's the best Fire Emblem game that's released in a while, probably since Awakening.
Okay.
I mean, Awakening, despite a lot of the criticisms, it was what saved the franchise.
It is, yeah. A lot of people owe anything to that, is the fact that it didn't die.
Yeah, and then I did like Fates, but Fates, like, the protagonist is kind of, ugh. There's actually one YouTuber called Blazing Knight, and he would always call Corrin Kirito. Just because, like, the things going on, like, really don't affect him as much as you would think it should.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is, I think,
it shrugs off some stuff sometimes.
Yeah, it's just real weird. Okay. Like the story is very weak. Like they could have done so much more with the story. And then Echoes was just weird, but that was technically a remake of a Nintendo game, Gaiden. Mm-hmm. But man, like Three Houses, it's still Fire Emblem, but it adds so much more.
Okay,
Just
so building on. So it stayed true to itself. It's still truly a Fire Emblem game, but
yeah, just like what Dink said, like you get so much stuff to do during your downtime.
Nice.
Yeah, like if you wanted to play it like a classic Fire Emblem game, you totally could. Or if you wanted to play it like a completely different like adventure game, you totally could. Like there's just so many different ways you can play it and still get the story out of it. It's like it just seems to hit every demographic in my mind. I'm not sure. Can't think of a type of player that wouldn't get something out of the game. There's just so much to do.
That's good. Is there a, like Persona, a time frame, like days that go by or whatever? It's like that also? So you're you're doing these activities throughout your days to fill them in?
Yeah, there's like a calendar. So every Sunday you get a day off. So you can either explore around the monastery, which it entitles like going fishing or doing gardening or talking to people or viewing like support conversations. You can do auxiliary battles in which you just do kind of like
grinding.
I don't know, like non-canon type battles in order to get like more gold or more experience for your guys. And every once in a while you have paralogue battles, which kind of take you off a side route and like are focused on a specific character and something they're facing in their lives. So you go to a unique battle with a unique boss for them. So it really helps to grow the characters in that aspect. And then at the end of the month, you usually have your mission, which is your big like canon battle, whatever it is, against whatever enemy you're facing at the time.
Alright, Current Patrick here. Just so you know, as a warning, Dink gets really excited about the game, so here's a spoiler warning, something coming up. Spoilers inbound in 3, 2, 1...
So it's, and then all the months go by, and about halfway through the game, you go through a time skip, and you go 5 years in the future, and like everything's changed. It's I don't know. I could go on forever if you let me. So I'm gonna have some self-control here.
So with that being the case, then, from someone who never really delved into the Fire Emblem games much or at all, would this be a place that you could just go ahead and jump in, or should you probably start with another game first?
I think this would actually be the perfect game for someone who's never played Fire Emblem to kind of go into, because, as I mentioned earlier, there's just so much you can do. Like, like most traditional Fire Emblem games I played is like story, battle, story, battle. Whereas this one, you can play around with different things. So if you get bored of the battles, you get bored of the story, well, heck, I'm just going to go fishing for a while and try and catch some big fish,
That's nice.
So it's, I think it'd be the perfect game for somebody to get into. And the farther you get, the more you kind of develop kind of an attachment to the students that you have on your team, and you kind of want to know a little bit more about them as you find out these little quirks about this. Like you got Bernadetta, for example, who always hides in her room. Mm-hmm. And then, I was really curious, like, why is she always hiding in her room, blah, blah, blah. And then you find out her backstory. And you're like, oh, well, that makes sense. And
that's cool.
Learn about that. And then you're like, well, I wonder why this person does this thing, and blah, 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 blah. So, I don't know, it's really engaging and super story-driven. But, again, you can play it however you want to. So if you don't like one aspect of it, you can focus on something else. So definitely highest praise from me, for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to add on there that one thing that Three Houses really does well that the other games don't is it has a fucking mini game based on what you know about your teammates and your classmates and stuff like that. So you can invite characters to a tea party, and so you can serve them the tea, and that's step one because everybody has their own preference. So somebody would be like, oh, this is my favorite tea, how the fuck did you know? And then from there, you have to try to engage conversation with them. So it's random topics like people you look up to, goals in life, things like that. So, like he mentioned Bernadetta, who's like very shy. She probably wouldn't give a fuck about what her goals in life are or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so if it gets really awkward, it'll cut short because it's like you have nothing to talk about.
Okay.
But if it keeps progressing, then they can kind of make they'll say a remark and then you can choose how to react. And sometimes they might like how you react or they may not like it.
Yeah.
And then from there, you get like a bonus, your charm stat goes up, and then you go into this weird camera mode where you just stare at them. But
Oh god.
And you just stare at them like observer.
Yeah.
It's really awkward, but
Yeah,
I'm notoriously bad at tea parties. I don't know why. I suck so bad at them. I'm like, oh, you would definitely like Dreamy Nights, and they're like, no.
Yeah, no. I was like, oh.
Well, I'll just exit out of this and give you like an armored bear stuffy or something.
Yeah, you can give them a lot of gifts. So I was gonna say, I saw this one fan art on Twitter where it says, "This is what I imagine the tea party's ending like," and so it's the main character Byleth looks like squatting on the table, like staring at them.
Oh god, because of the perspective.
Yeah, because it zooms in, so it's like just
weird.
in their face. Like
I almost thought you were gonna say that it goes into a Pokemon Ami mode.
Oh,
where you
no.
can just rub the person like with your stylus.
Okay, so here's the thing: Fire Emblem Fates originally had that.
Oh man,
they took it away when they brought
I
it to
believe
the
it. That's a little. It's already weird enough with Pokemon.
Right.
Yeah.
To put it with people, that'd be a whole nother level.
Yeah,
of weird.
pretty much North America picked it up and they said, ravioli, please don't pet the Fire Emblem lolies.
Yeah.
And so they banished
basically.
it.
Okay, so it definitely sounds. So the reason I asked if it's a good place to start is just because it sounds like my kind of jam. Like with Witcher, and then even Astral Chain, and then Yakuza and Deadly Premonition, where there's like the main story, but there are like tons of hours of side quests that you can do to turn it into like a 100+ hour game.
Yeah.
It sounds like the kind of thing I would have a lot of fun with in that sense. So I'm very curious. So say I do get it right, would you say it has the effect like what Pat says about the Persona games, where you don't if you were to play 5, it would make it harder to play 4, 3, 2, and 1 because of quality of life things. I would imagine because of how drawn out and epic the latest one sounds. If you were to play it first, though, I feel like going backwards to Awakening or B4 would probably be feel a little boring or harder to play.
Yeah, probably a bit.
Without all the cool side stuff.
I mean,
so
it's possible. Like Awakening or like Path of Radiance or Radiant Dawn, like all three of those had like amazing storylines, which kind of like outside of. I mean, Three Houses does too. Obviously, probably one of the deeper ones, but. I mean, those 3 games not having the extras kind of made up for it a little bit in the story, too. So, I mean, you still get something out of playing those games.
That's cool.
I didn't play Fates, so I don't know much. I skipped that one. I skipped the mobile. Did you play the mobile game, Shiro? I didn't even try that one.
Heroes?
Oh, Heroes? Yeah. I used to play it. It's a gachapon game. I played it a lot, but the problem with it is... like most mobile games, I don't think it really rewards you very well. So it does get a little boring, and then you're at a point...
There's a ceiling, right? There's a ceiling where it's not really free to play anymore.
Yeah, it's like if you really want to get the good summons, you have to
Yeah.
really dish out money for it.
Which is a shame, because I feel like Nintendo is so bad at apps. Like Mario Kart World is awful, and like Fire Emblem Heroes was fine till everyone hit that kind of soft ceiling of like, if you didn't want to spend money. I think it's almost a testament to the fact of Nintendo always trying to keep that crap out of their main systems and mainline games, is why they don't quite grasp the griminess of the way the app world's supposed to be. So it adds a weird, it's like a naive innocence that Nintendo has in their apps that make them kind of unenjoyable in the sense that they're not good at doing scummy games. So it's so not transparent about the fact that you're gonna not enjoy it fairly quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The weird thing about the Mario Kart one, though, I don't know if you guys knew about that one, because we didn't really talk about that story in the Mario Kart thing, where there was no real online play, so everyone on there that you were playing with was like fake people, and the matches were rigged so you'd win a few, then you would horribly lose one, but you were winning enough that it was making you want to come back and get them microtransactions. Because
that's shady AF.
Yeah, it was really weird. Once that came out, when people realized it wasn't real online play, it was not great. And that's where I go to the point where I'm just like, Nintendo's not good at this. They and again, it almost is funny because they're not good at it because because Justice and I had a conversation with one of the people I live with had this conversation about Pokemon the other day, in the sense of like where I proposed the very grim idea of, what if they started selling the gens of Pokemons as DLC expansion packs?
Oh.
Or fucking microtransactions, like get your Bulbasaur for $3. Oh. Like, I told them, thankfully it's Nintendo, I don't see that being a thing, but it would definitely be the nail in the coffin for me ever playing Pokemon again if they did go that route. Yeah. Because that would be just entirely against what Pokemon is about. Yeah. And I'd rather it be missing the shitload of them there, which we saw that amazing rendition of the Pokemon rap yesterday that was missing all of the ones on the 150.
Gotta catch all 54.
Or 54 of the OG ones. But anyway.
There was only 150 of them when the last time I played Pokemon, I tell you what.
Yeah, yeah, we're not sure if it's the Pokeboomer thing or if we just really don't care anymore. It's a weird one. But we're not going to redo that episode. Yeah. I'm not going to reenact that episode. But yeah, so it's one of those, okay, so Fire Emblem's good. I just realized that this is like the JoJo's thing all over again. We're talking about JoJo's for about 20 plus minutes. So for those of you who haven't left yet and are Fire Emblem, play it. You should. What else? What else do you have going on, Mr. Dink? Anything interesting happened lately that are podcast worthy mentioning? Even if it's like a story of getting cut off at Starbucks or something?
I just got back from Minnesota not too long ago. I was there for work, and it's I don't know. I like that place. It kind of reminds me of Canada. I don't know if you guys have ever been there or even familiar with it, but it's
I went to the.
It's really. I'm from Canada. If you didn't know that, I'm assuming you did, but maybe you know what assuming does, right?
Yep, exactly.
It's from the land of maple syrup and beavers
and clear money.
And moose.
Clear money. I like the clear money.
That's right.
I like that.
Yeah, it's colorful too. It's all sorts of different colors, like the leaves on the trees in the fall,
Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, I don't know. I got back from there. It was interesting. Mall of America is pretty cool. If you've never been, I definitely recommend going.
It's insane.
Outside of that, I've just been posting YouTube videos that keep getting demonetized. So that's my life right now, pretty much.
Thanks, YouTube. Are you on any sort of, so aside going through AdSense, which I'm assuming you're going through for that, like everyone I think has to go through some sort of AdSense thing.
Yeah.
Do you have any external marketing or, external ad revenue or Patreon that you are doing as well?
Yeah, actually, the Patreon is actually what's keeping me going right now. If anyone out there is listening interested, patreon.com/Shujinkydink. We do one-on-one lessons for Mortal Kombat. So it's, people who are trying to get better at the game and just, want to improve or just want to understand the game better. I have people from as young as 16 and as old as their late 30s, early 40s that are taking lessons, so for all sorts of different reasons. So. And it's really helps support and maintain the channel, too, because, like I mentioned, YouTube doesn't like violence, even in video games right now. Insane. So they're demonetizing anything that has violence, which makes it extremely hard to be consistent, but, it is what it is, so...
Yeah.
It's also, we also have our own community, like a Discord where we share memes or talk about Mortal Kombat happenings or other fighting games. A lot of our guys are playing Tekken right now as well. There's some Sam show going on, so... I don't know, it's a cool thing because it's not something I ever thought that would grow into what it is, because I was like, I had this whole plan out, and I was so scared to put it into motion because I was like, what if people are like, oh, you're such a sellout, blah, blah, blah. So I remember the day I launched it, I had like so much anxiety, and then there ended up being a really huge draw for it, and like no one had really ever done that before in the community, so it was kind of a new thing, which is another reason why I was kind of scared to do it. But it ended up being quite successful, and everyone seems to be fairly happy with how it works, and it spawned a lot of kind of copycat type of ideas too, so it kind of proved that the platform works and there's a draw for it. So it's been an interesting endeavor, to say the least, that's for sure. And I don't know, it makes me happy to see so many people of a common interest come together to do something like that, and support creators who, I try to put out a video every day. Again, it's been a little bit discouraging with things getting demonetized, and it's like, should I even bother to make, spend 2 hours of work for $1.13? Like, I don't know if I can justify that, but I don't know. It's, I think I'm rambling because I do that sometimes, but you guys get the point either way.
Yeah. No, it's really rough because, you mostly do NRS content, and the most current NRS game is MK11, which YouTube just fucking hates.
They hate that.
Yeah.
They hate it almost as much as DJ whatever the fuck his name was.
Oh, yeah. And you've tried experimenting with putting the color filter on as well, right? And that still didn't work?
Yeah, because I thought that there was rumors that they were kind of demonetizing them like on an automated basis, like as soon as they saw like the red flashes. So NRS put in a colorblind filters on it for people that are colorblind, and one of them changed it slightly to like make the blood like kind of purplish, and I thought maybe that would work, and even that didn't get past the automation. So I don't know if it's something with the titles of Mortal Kombat or whatnot put in there, because it's a shame, because I mean, Mortal Kombat is like their flagship kind of brand, right? And they also make the Injustice games as well, which Injustice is fine. Every time I post an Injustice video, you know, it's monetized, so no problem, because there's no gore in that, right?
Yeah.
It may be the gore, it could just be the fact that it's Mortal Kombat is immediately...
We need to make a video then where you splash me with grape juice or strawberry jam and see if that gets demonetized. Cool. Because if it's just colored liquid splattering that demonetizes it, we'll know for sure.
Okay, so we'll just get like a bucket of like fake ass blood, right? We'll fucking remake the fatal blows. We'll record it at 30 frames. If when you get hit, we're just gonna get like a fucking skeleton from like the Halloween store.
Yeah.
Like,
just use one out of my brother-in-law's garage. We got like 3 of them.
Oh, hell
yeah. We're already ready to go.
Just do that and see if it gets demonetized.
I feel like that'll just get demonetized for being bad.
Yeah, they're just looking at it like, oh god, this is just shit.
This was a good idea.
We're gonna give them the pleasure of earning pennies on this?
Yes, no.
Yeah.
But, no, that's the thing, is YouTube is... I mean, YouTube
Trash.
is... Well, yeah, and it has been for a while, right? You know, because now that I've been creating on there for... It's going to be a decade next year. It's one of those things where it's it's been a wasteland. Ever since the adpocalypse, it was already getting bad, right? Then the adpocalypse happened, that didn't help. Where everything is just... You know what I mean? If you have a kid in your video, you're demonetized. If you have violence in your video, you're demonetized. If you say a slightly... edgy word, you're demonetized. Now, of course, I understand getting demonetized for maybe homophobic slurs or racism. Obviously,
well, that's
you should
the thing
be demonetized
is they don't
for that.
really do that, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If I put in the description, which is why there has only been one podcast description where I cursed in it, was because I know we instantly don't get shared at all when I put fuck or anything in the podcast description. There's always like Randy Pitchford or something when I was just like, fuck that guy. I'm just not gonna... I was so angry that I was just like, the description is going to be explicit.
Just put fudge.
But go figure, that also had the worst...
Frogs.
The worst,
Frogs.
fucking CPM that you got on anything. So, but that's the thing now, is it's almost futile for new content creators because it's hard... when you're really small, it's hard to ask people to support a Patreon for sure. But then you also don't really get to thrive too much on YouTube organically because they only do favor the channels that kind of already have a following. It's like when YouTube bumped up their monetization minimum now to like 1,000 to even be considered. You have to have at least 1,000 subs to even be like looked at for the monetization program now. It used to just be if you had X amount of like views or something. Now it's at least 1,000 subs.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think there's somebody in the FGC who's having an issue. Is it Destroyer I'm thinking of? But there was somebody on Twitter where they've met the criteria and they're constantly waiting on YouTube to approve the monetization. And they're just like, what the fuck? Like, I've already approved this. Like, why won't this happen? And YouTube's just silent on their end. One
so
of
we
the
should just make a new YouTube.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
What I'm hearing.
Yeah, there is a lot of new YouTubes. The problem is no one wants to go to them.
Ooh, I have something I can mention about that. But another thing I was going to bring up too is there's another YouTuber. I mostly started watching him because of card game stuff, but he now kind of does these series about shows that kind of dwindled over time. But anyways, it was Negative Legend, if anyone's interested. He put on Twitter that he saw this thing that apparently you can go into the settings. There is a checkbox about whether or not the content is targeted for children.
Yes.
And so he was like, yeah, make sure this is always checked, because he's not certain how it affects demonetization, but apparently it can prevent your ass from getting sued. Because if you have it marked that it's targeting kids and clearly your content isn't, there's a chance they could probably get your ass on that.
I see.
Yeah, so...
That makes sense.
Yeah, so it...
yeah, I've noticed that. That's, like, super annoying. It's like every video you gotta go in and click it. Ugh, sucks.
Yeah.
YouTube sucks. Stop being a YouTuber these days.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if I was like... If I was like a family vlogger or something, where I'm like, hey, today we're making cookies! You know, like...
Well, and that's the big problem.
Maybe... But like, you're making content for kids. No, sorry.
Yeah, YouTube favors the type of demographic now, and that's the problem. Is the fact that it's hard to break through now because, like Mallory was trying to say, there's Vimeo, right? So, but the problem is, who the fuck are you going to convince to watch your videos on Vimeo? The quality's way better, and the fucking bandwidth. I mean, you have to basically pay to host on there. But I think that also does, or to have the good quality stuff. But I also feel that does have a sort of like quality control that YouTube definitely could use, because anyone can just upload on YouTube, and because of that, you just get.
Yeah.
Well, I think the main reason that YouTube doesn't have any competition is because it's such a difficult platform to maintain. Like, if you really think about it, like, YouTube has to work around laws in so many different countries. And, like, what kind of competitor could come up with a legal team that could help them with that? Like, they're backed by Google, so of course, like, so they have the resources, but, like, Vimeo or something like that, like, how the hell are they supposed to be able to, come up with the funds to worldwide meet all the legal ramifications and stuff that they run into, right? So, I mean, and I bitch about the demonetization of YouTube, but it's not 100% YouTube's fault, because if a video gets demonetized and people are watching it, YouTube doesn't make any money from that either. So I'm sure they would probably rather not do it, but they don't want to lose their advertisers. So, like... At the end of the day, it's the money that's pushing YouTube to punish the creators at the end of the day, which is a shitty situation. I don't know how to fix it, other than being like, hey, advertisers, have a stronger backbone, but, like, that's not going to happen.
No, that's definitely not going to happen.
You put your ad on the wrong thing nowadays, and, you could get chastised for it. There's, I don't know the whole background, but there's some football star that got sponsored by Nike or something, and a lot of people turn their backs on Nike because of it. So things like that, you put your ad on a video that, and when absolutely or accidentally, they didn't know that the guy in the video uses a racist slur or something like that, and then all of a sudden, like, oh, they support this guy, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I get it from both sides, but I don't know what the conclusion is. I don't know how to make everybody happy, right? It's just a screwed up situation, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a catch-22.
Another thing that really sucks too is this one YouTuber, his channel's Folding Ideas. He once did a video about there was a company that was trying to make the next YouTube, and I think he was even reached out to try and be like a partnered content creator, but the problem was that this site had so many problems, and it's one of those things where you already have a framework, like an idea to go off of YouTube, right? But they just couldn't make it like that. And he addressed a lot of these criticisms with them. There's a whole bunch more that I'm just forgetting, but essentially he called them out for just being grifters, because they were just trying to get a bunch of people on their end to kind of start this, to get a bunch of money out of it, when they weren't going to offer like a quality product for them to have a platform on. So that's also another problem, is that if somebody's trying to say we're making the next YouTube, they're probably just going to like try to screw you over. Oh my god, what's going on?
Is Dink gone?
Oh no.
No, Dink's
I disappeared for a second, but now I'm back.
Okay,
I don't know what just happened.
That was reconnecting. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, Dink's back. Okay.
Yeah, I just heard like a beep. I was like, oh my.
He turned into a robot. Dink is a robot confirmed.
It's like, shit, the Cyberman assimilation happened already.
Oh, is it again?
Yeah,
Dink's gone again?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Canadian Internet.
I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. Is Canadian Internet good or not?
I think it's better than ours is.
Oh, God.
Unless
it's just going to keep doing this.
It keeps like kicking me, and then like I come back.
Google Fiber knows we're talking shit about it.
Yeah, that's really. Oh yeah, we're talking. Oh, so we use Google Fiber, so that's probably what's happening. But anyway,
there you go.
So,
they heard us.
But basically, to wrap it up again, just so we don't, because this is all very interesting to us as content creators, but at the same time, I'm sure everyone's getting tired. The casual listeners are like, talk about Call of Duty. No, but it's one of those things where it's just like, it really is a fucked up situation, because if you do not have external sponsorships or a Patreon now, you are not going to be able to do it, to use YouTube as a living. YouTube is that surrogate platform now where you host your videos on it, because again, there's no other real practical place to do it. But in terms of, like, before where you could strive to make a living through AdSense, now that's just a pipe dream at this point.
It's like
unless you're going to be a
cringy
vlogger. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. You could just, like, become a stupid reactionary channel.
God, I hate those so much, but they pull so many views. It's fucking insane.
Yeah, it's interesting because React videos were always something that I always was like against. I was like, no, I'll never do React video. That's lazy content. And then like the bigger I got, the more and more I got people like, hey, you should do a React video of this. You should do a React video of this. And I was like, people want to actually watch this? Like, that's crazy. So then I started posting them, and I feel really awkward every time I do because I was so spoken out against them for the longest time. But at the end of the day, if my viewers want to watch it, I'm going to make it.
Yeah,
so,
fair enough. You gotta please the audience for sure.
I still think they're not like the most intelligent content you can make, but I mean, people want to see my genuine reaction to it. And like, I think it's those videos where like it's so clear they're not reacting to it, like they've seen it already, so it's like, okay, like whatever. Like it's like the Superman reveal trailer, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna watch the Superman reveal trailer, and then it starts and like, oh my god, it's Superman! He's in the game! Like come on, man! Like,
yeah, it's really,
and that makes it hard because like I work a 9-to-5 job, so like if a trailer is dropped like first thing in the morning, I have to like not look at my phone all day until I get home to like sit and have like a genuine reaction to it. And so it's hard on my end as a fan too, but you know, it's what the people want, and I'm the dink of the people, so I'll give them what they want.
I think a big problem with reactionary videos too is that a lot of them aren't genuine. At least I feel like based off their reaction, I'm like, you saw this already, you fuckhead. Don't even pretend. Yeah, basically. But moving it right along, I had this question before, and based on your experience off of it, Street Fighter V. Is Street Fighter V an objectively, despite the nonsense surrounding it, its bad launch and all that stuff, is Street Fighter V objectively a fine game? Is it? Oh, is it?
It is now. On launch, it wasn't. There was a lot of Mortal Kombat X type features with it, which I don't know if you'll understand, but a lot of the MKX community will. There was a lot of guessing. And if you guessed wrong, you just died. And that's kind of what Street Fighter V was at the start. They seem to have fixed that. Whether it was too little too late, I'm not sure to say. I don't 100% know, how that community is kind of handling the game, but I have heard that they've definitely upgraded it. They're still adding characters to the game. They're doing their pro circuit right now, I think, as well. So, I mean, the game is alive and well. But as far as, how it stacks up to, like, Street Fighter 4, which was one of the better Street Fighters of all time, I'd say, I couldn't say that. I've played Street Fighter 5 a little bit, but I haven't got deep enough to really know the mechanics or the meta of the game yet. But from what I see and from what I hear from people that know that play it, they say it's pretty solid now. It just took a while to kind of get there.
Josh, you played SF5 at launch?
Yes.
Okay, and have you played it recently?
No.
Exactly. So, what I wonder is how many people are in the same boat as you, right? Because there's a few topics we're going to talk about on the docket today where it's one of those things where the recurring theme of this podcast episode is basically going to be, when is it too little too late?
Yeah.
And should it sometimes be at launch? In the sense of, your good graces should be, one thing I referred to a lot was my the polarized reception of when I made that video on Assassin's Creed Unity when it first came out, where I played the unpatched build, where they fixed a lot of stuff by the time I reviewed it, but I wanted to show what Ubisoft felt was competent enough to push out the door, which was insanely broken.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer of you should be judged off your launch, because even if you That's why I'm glad, technically Metacritics and stuff aren't altered, which is like, for example, No Man's Sky is a good game now, but it has a bad Metacritic because it launched shitty. But getting back on that, it's one of those things where I do really wonder if Capcom will... Thankfully, Capcom seems to be getting better about like everything all around, so I would be very curious to see when Capcom will consider their lesson learned, if SF6 will launch any better, or if it's going to come into... similar issues. Because how was SF4's launch? Because SF4 obviously went on to be considered a very good game, but how's SF4's vanilla?
It had features.
So already more than 5.
Yeah, I mean, only... Oh, what up, Dink?
I was gonna say, I remember, I'm trying to think back, because 4 was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
But I do remember it being a successful launch, and they upgraded that game like a lot, and they kept it relevant for a very, very long time. On almost a record amount of time for a fighting game, I thought. And they kept adding things to it, and, even me, who's, more of a Mortal Kombat player, I always entered Street Fighter 4 at tournaments just because I enjoyed playing the game. It was fun to me, even though I never really won anything. It was always just fun to get behind and just play. And I usually traditionally play like a zoning kind of mindset, keep away mindset, and that game had a character that let me do it, but wasn't overpowering or anything like that. And it was, I don't know, I really enjoyed Street Fighter 4 as someone who's a very, very casual player. And it seemed to me at the highest level of the game as well, when we're talking about Evo and stuff, it was quite balanced. You had a couple characters that you probably would not see in Evo Top 8, but you had different people winning Evo all the time and stuff, so it kind of showed that there was a good diversity at the top of the game as well, which is always solid for a game, because no one wants to go to a tournament and watch a top 8 with like 8 different Scorpions in there, right? Yeah. Like 8 Sub-Zeros or something like that. So I don't know, I remember, I look back fondly on that game, which is not really something that I look at Street Fighter V at as a fighting game player, but that's one man's opinion who hasn't played as much Street Fighter as I have, say, Mortal Kombat or Soul Calibur, right? So take my word with a grain of salt, but...
Mm-hmm. So gearing it more towards what you are, more in your wheelhouse, when was the turning point when you kind of started to move more towards fighting games becoming a living? Like, how did that kind of come about? Through your content creator stuff and whatnot, and also how and why, particularly NRS content?
Well, Mortal Kombat was always a game of mine that I played throughout my life. Like, my first time playing it was like as a small child. They had Mortal Kombat, the original Mortal Kombat arcade, in the bowling alley, and my parents had put me in the bowling league, so I was there twice a week. So in between, throwing balls down the lane, I'd go and put my quarters up and let the older kid beat me just so I could see the fatalities. And and then moving on from there, I played on consoles, Mortal Kombat 2, Mortal Kombat 3. I did play 4, but I don't really remember much being super into it. Mortal Kombat 2 was the one I think I actually worked hard and had a quote-unquote main, which was Baraka, who has always been my favorite Mortal Kombat character, because you never forget your first, right? He's always forefront of my mind. So a lot of people would assume that my favorite character is Quan Chi, because he was what I kind of got a big boost from in MKX and MK9 from playing him, but he'll always be number 2 to Baraka. And then in 2004, I got the original, like the very first Xbox, like the old big clunky black thing, and I got Xbox Live, and I needed a game to play on it. And I went to Blockbuster, and they had a sale on Mortal Kombat Deception, and I was like, well, okay, I mean, it's a cheap game, I'll pick it up. I don't know why it was on sale, because it was still fairly new then, but I picked it up and got like super into it, and I ran into one guy online who, like, I played him like 3 times, I think, and he beat me all 3 times pretty cleanly, and he was like, you don't really have a solid fundamental game, and I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm just beating people's asses and doing fatalities. What's fundamentals? And so he invited me to a private game, and then started teaching me about how the game works and stuff, and it really intrigued me. And then from that moment on, I went and started learning more and more about the game, and eventually fast-forwarding all the way to MK9, when that came out. I started doing tournaments, and I traveled to my first tournament in Arizona, and then, I don't know, it just kind of skyrocketed into MKX and me actually doing well and getting top 8s and stuff, and that's when I started to make content creation because I couldn't find any videos on how to get better at the game and like fundamentals and stuff like that. So I thought, well, here's a hole in the market that I can kind of get into. So I don't know, that's kind of how it started, and I haven't really looked back since. So I don't know. I hope that it didn't go longer than expected, but that's
the answer. That's the answer. I do have a question though.
The answer.
In Canada, is there music perpetually playing in the country?
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The upstairs is playing music very loud.
Okay. No, I was just curious. Okay. No, I was just wondering because at first I thought I was having a stroke, and then I just was wondering. Okay. No, it's all good.
I'm not qualified to say that you aren't having a stroke, but probably if I am.
Yeah. No, it was. There we go. I just had to.
Yeah.
I had to. It was a thing. All right. So we're at probably what's going to be the halfway point. So with that being the case, then let's get to the plugs and whatnot. Mr. Dink, what events are you going to be going to soon that you'd like people to know about? And then, of course, you can do the Patreon again and whatever else noteworthy to help you out. What's going on with you in the world of Dink?
Yeah, no tournaments planned until May. I'll be a combo breaker in Chicago. Patreon.com/Shujinkydink, YouTube.com/Shujinkydink. Twitch.tv/Shujinkydink. I stream sometimes, but very infrequently, so don't hope to catch me there that often. But those I think are the main. Oh, and on Twitter, of course, at Shujinkydink there. So I think that's about it on my socials and stuff. So
all right, there you go. And remember, guys, we're gonna have all that linked below as we always do for our guests. Mr. Josh, where are you gonna find you at?
Twitter and Instagram at Yoshiro Joestar.
I thought you were going to say Shujinkydink. I was really hoping you were going to say that.
Yeah,
go on.
Yeah, you can see me on there too. Secretly hack into his Twitter. And then youtube.com/HeroPlay5. Yeah.
All right, Mallory.
You can find me at Instagram at awesome_Mally. I did not stream this week, so there's nothing up there.
The VODs.
And that's about it.
The VODs.
All right. So what you'll notice,
and a special shout out to a creator who made my new logo.
I didn't update
that you need to update.
Fuck. I'm gonna be up late tonight. God damn it.
I know you have so much to do.
I do now.
Newcomb Studios. He did my new logo that's going to be on the website, and I thank him very much. He's a very nice person.
You mean the one that's already on this episode's artwork? So I did it already.
Yeah.
But maybe at some point in the past I didn't. But it's on there. So
okay.
There's that. Now, what you'll notice between Dink and Mallory is the consistency in screen names, and then so it makes it a little easier to find you when you have the same thing.
Except for if you have to uppercase and lowercase it because it's already taken by somebody.
Or underscores.
That's so weird with Mixer. That was Mixer, right?
Yeah.
That's so weird.
The first two letters of both are now uppercase, and I can't change it. So
okay, so don't worry. That was it. I've been shooting on Mallory the whole time, but it was just all the lead up to that bit, which is really funny.
So if you Google, like, Awesome Mally, it would just be, like, someone's peer review. I tried it
on YouTube already, and I found someone who was not Mallory.
I hung out with my bestie Mallory at Starbucks. Let me tell you how
it was
awesome she is.
Mally.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that problem. But yeah, so there's that.
I was going to say I have that problem a lot when I'm doing like lessons and stuff because someone's like Discord name will be different than their gamer tag, which is different than their Twitch username. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, they're like, oh yeah, hey, thanks for the lesson in my Twitch chat. And I'm like, who are you? Like, I'm this guy on Discord, but I'm also this guy on Xbox. It's like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, that's one reason why I kind of like was moving, because even though like I still go by Shiro, it's so fucking common. So I was like,
you've lost a lot of domains because of that. That's for sure. You've missed out on a few.
Yeah, so I was just like, I'll just go with Yoshiro Joestar and start using that. But But yeah, no, and it's so weird going to what like Dink is, because I've seen that in the Discord, and you can change your name in Discord.
You can.
And it's like, why not just have it be what your
No!
user ID is?
Because they made that when they were 12, and Discord is now.
Because this one is Melly is awesome.
No, that's not it.
Oh.
It's got
But
one view.
anyways, you can find all my stuff at ZD Rocker because I have one screen name that I use on all platforms, and then you can also find my stuff at SlowNationEntertainment.com as well as the podcast itself at DisconnectedCast.com.
But if you're listening in Canada, it would be ZD.
Oh yeah, it would be Zed.
Yeah.
Even the ad man,
Zed
even in the ads where I have the Australian guy do it, he says Zed. So there's that. So there's that, as well as there's also our sponsor, who I'd assume is probably in Canada as well, which is Radio Public. Oh my god,
no.
I almost forgot. Radio Public. Radio Public is an app on iOS and Android. Where you can listen to podcasters. That's the one. And including our own on there. And when you do listen on there, it does help out the podcast directly. So make sure to check out the link that I keep forgetting to put in the podcast description. And check out the app at Radio Public on iOS and Android.
Super easy to use, guys.
It's super easy to use. I use it all the time, just like Dollar Shave Club, which is our next. No, not yet. Not yet. But yeah,
damn, I was
so
gonna
there's
bust
that.
out my Dollar Shave registers.
Wait till you get that. I want to try to get purple and mattresses, and then I want to try to get.
Can we get purple mattresses?
Or Casper mattress?
And Casper's good too.
Got to get Nature Box
like
and our movement
mattress.
watches.
I took a test that told me what my job should be, and it should be a mattress tester.
Yeah.
Where you just like lay on mattresses all day.
Mm.
So that's a thing.
I do that and I don't even get paid for it.
No, not at all.
I feel like that's that meme. You guys are getting paid?
Yeah, basically.
Paid for that?
Yeah. There's that. All right, into the game news. So, first thing, so it's going to be a lot of Xbox news. So, if those of you who have suffered through all of this and then you also hate Xbox and like you weren't interested in any of the things before this and then you also don't like Xbox,
Rip.
there is going to be stuff that's not Xbox in
Please
a bit.
Press F.
But yeah, because that train departed a while back. No, there's going to be not Xbox stuff coming up later, but we do have Xbox in the news. First of all, if you we talk about Xbox Game Pass a lot, and we're not sponsored by them, but we do talk to them a lot because it is a cool service. It's basically what Stadia should have been, which is going to be on our docket, and in the sense of almost being like a Netflix for games, in the sense that you pay that monthly subscription. What is the base fee actually? Is it like 14 or is it 9 or 14?
I know Ultimate is 15 because that's what I pay.
Okay, so $15 because that's a good one. For
That gives you
$15, you get access to stuff like all of Xbox's first-party titles, Forza Gears, and all that stuff. But you also do get stuff like Outer Worlds, which already makes it worth that $15 a month. Well,
plus you get your gold membership with it.
yes, and if you do want to try it out right now, and you are a Discord Nitro user, you do get 3 months right now as Discord's current offer for the month for Discord Nitro users. So you can try out Xbox Game Pass on your PC or Xbox for free for 3 months.
You also get Spotify Premium.
Through Discord?
No, through Xbox.
Well, I don't care about that.
Oh,
We're talking about
I'm
the Discord
sorry.
promo. No, I was joking. Well, that's good. That's very nice. That's good for them. But through Discord right now, you can get.
You already have Spotify.
Too bad.
Well, then you're like me, who just is like, that's cool, but I already use Spotify.
Yeah. So right now on Discord, you can try out the thing we keep talking about, Discord Game Pass. Oh, God damn it, Xbox. It's Mallory's fault for interrupting me.
Oops, sorry.
Discord Game Pass is discontinued. That's no longer a thing.
It started and it discontinued.
Yeah,
Such a fleeting dream.
Yeah, so if you had Discord Nitro in the last year, you were able to play games for free. Now you don't get to do that. That's already done. But now you can they're giving you 3 months of Xbox Game Pass. You can try it on there. And they also appropriately announced a bunch of titles that are going to be joining Xbox Game Pass that are very much worth it, as well as some that aren't on this list, but fuck it. The ones that I would say are definitely worth getting the Game Pass to even try is stuff like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is the new sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest. You also have Yakuza 0, Yakuza Kiwami, Kiwami 2 is also going to be on Xbox Game Pass now. Streets of Rage 4, haven't tried it, so don't know if that's any good. You're also going to have access to Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 8 Remastered, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10 HD Remastered, Final Fantasy 10 2 HD Remastered, Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age, Final Fantasy 13, 13 2, 13 Lightning Returns are all going to be on there, as well as Final Fantasy 15 are all joining the Xbox Game Pass. So, if you were trying to get into Yakuza or Final Fantasy, now would be the time, because you will have all the access to that through your 3 months of the Xbox Game Pass, which actually exists. And you will be able to try that to your heart's content. Again, this is kind of funny how Xbox is just going really all in with this, because this is the selling point, because it's being bridged between PC and Xbox. So with that being the case, it really makes Stadia look even shittier than it already does, because this is basically all Stadia should be, is this. But yeah, so that's what's going on with them. They added their new titles on there. They're also Xbox also announcing that they're going to not part of the Game Pass, but Xbox in general will be adding the Kingdom Hearts collections that are because they have Kingdom Hearts 3 on there right now. So you'll be getting the HD remix blah 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 collections are going to be available on Xbox as well. So now if you really like Kingdom Hearts 3 and you were wondering, all those memes are now irrelevant that had to do with people not going on with it. So now Xbox is like, yeah, that's a good meme, but now it's done.
Because I was going to say, they like completely, I think even digitally they pulled those games, because if I'm not mistaken, because I remember I bought the physical for Kingdom Hearts The Story Thus Far.
Yeah.
And then after, like, it seems like right after Kingdom Hearts 3 launched, they pulled it off shelves, and I think you couldn't even buy it digital anymore, and you had to buy the pack
right
that had all of them.
Yeah, right before 3 launched, it was $20 on Amazon. Then I was just like, well, I still don't really care about Kingdom Hearts, but I was like, I might just buy it for a laugh, because it's $20. Then Kingdom Hearts 3 came out, and I was just like, where'd it go?
Yeah, I'm so glad I picked it up when I did.
It was a good thing to pick up. So, Retro asking Dink several things we just covered, because I wanted to do the Xbox rollout too. Your FGC, so I'm assuming no Xbox for you, as very many people, the FGC is probably not Xbox.
Actually, I own 3 Xboxes, but I rarely ever play them.
Oh.
So
I'm so excited!
Yeah, I have Xbox One S, I have an Xbox One, I have an Xbox 360. My Xboxes I use because I do lessons. I can't discriminate between consoles. So
fair enough.
If someone that wants to do lessons is on Xbox, I can't be like, oh, sorry, I don't do Xbox lessons. So I really only play my Xbox for when I do that.
Lesson 1, buy a PS4.
yeah, pretty much. But I mean, like, I don't know. I just haven't really found too many like Xbox exclusive games that I like. Like, I didn't really enjoy. I should say I didn't enjoy. I didn't really get into the Halo series that much. Gears of War was pretty cool. I like Gears of War, and I downloaded the new one, but I haven't played it yet because it's a hassle to hook up my Xbox.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm probably like the worst person to talk to about Xbox stuff. But I mean, that's my input for my experience on Xbox. I guess it seems like it runs smoother than my PS4 as a console, but I don't know the specifics. Of maybe that's just me.
Right. And so there is a thing of like Xbox always being a little bit better than PS4 in terms of UI. Like, it's an uglier UI, but it does tend to run. We're talking about vanilla versus vanilla. It ran a bit better, smoother. So that's not just you. That actually is on a technical level a thing. In terms of the Xbox Game Pass, even though you don't spend too much time on Xbox, I would say that. Well, no, it's really hard to really ask that as a question, because objectively it's a good thing. Never mind! It doesn't matter what you think about Xbox Game Pass, because because I was going to say, all it is just be baiting him to try to agree, because if you say $15 a month for a bunch of cool games is shitty, then people would just be like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
So,
I actually think I have the Xbox Game Pass, but I have it for my son, so he stops coming in and asking me, like, can I buy this game? Can I buy this game? Can I buy this game?
And see,
like,
so that makes it a really cool thing.
Play all these games, and then come to me when you're done them all. And then I'll buy you a game.
And see, and that's the thing, right, is at the rate they're adding all these games now, it's a very good value. So you look at it, right, so $15 a month times, fucking 12 months in a year. when you break that down to the few, because games being $60 a pop, like if you were to buy all those Yakuza games and all those Final Fantasy games, that's already going to exceed the cost of the Game Pass for a year, essentially, just in 2 franchises. So with them adding that, plus the ability to play brand new games like Outer Worlds and Outer Wilds at launch, it's not like there was a staggered, like, Xbox Game Pass users will be able to play this in 3 months after everyone else. It was like launched on Xbox Game Pass. And not to mention, it was smart for Xbox to do because they were bringing franchises that were originally locked to just Xbox to PC players now who are like, well, I've always found Gears interesting, but I'm not going to fucking buy an Xbox to play Gears. Now you can do that on PC, and with the pass also being cross-platform, it's just all around. It's just... Xbox, again, I've always ranted and raved about how they may not know how to do the... Ironically, as a game system, they're not very good at doing the games part, per se, but they've always been smart with the tech and stuff like you know, with the rollout of stuff like that. A lot of UI things. PlayStation Network, as we know as a whole, is essentially a lot of it thanks to the infrastructure that Xbox Live first let out, because if anyone remembers playing PS2 online... like SOCOM, yikes. That was a fucking nightmare to set up because forget about playing with friends or lobbies and stuff like that. So, Xbox on the tech side of things and their controller evolution, I think is really cool and stuff like that, has always been smart on the tech side. So it's just one of those things where this is just another example of them really knocking out of the park with, again, good ideas. I just wish that they could translate that more into their own franchises as opposed to just, you know, ramping up tech to make other stuff better, if that makes any sense. So it's weird.
I was going to say, I do have one question because I don't know much about the Game Pass, but is there some type of like caveat where maybe you don't have access to the DLC for a game, or...
As far as I know...
Because there has to be some kind of incentive for you to still buy the game, right? Yeah,
as far as I know, that's a good question.
I haven't run into anything like that. I know, like... But I don't play a lot of games that, like... I play Destiny, and that's free to play.
That's a really good question. I'm going to have to get back to you on probably the next episode.
Like, yeah, because like, if you're playing Final Fantasy 15...
you have to buy the DLC
that would so suck. Like,
no, I think it's the Royal Edition that they're putting on there.
So so it would already have... Okay.
So...
But, yeah, that is one question.
That's a good question. Yeah. For Outer Worlds, for example, there's no announced DLC, but say they do.
Right.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think at this point... The games on there right now are not in a situation to run into that, but it's a very good question.
Yeah,
that's a very good question.
I'll have to look into that because I don't know.
Somebody leave it in the comments somewhere.
Good. Yeah, somewhere if someone does know. Xbox also did recently get an update that now implements Google Assistant because they realized Cortana is shit. So they got rid of that. And we're just like, all right, Google Assistant now works with Xbox. They're going to be slowly rolling out features to have it work into your Google ecosystem, like how I have my fucking Chromecast hooked up to my Google Homes, hooked up to
I was looking for your Google Home, so
nonsense.
It doesn't go off again.
So with that being the case, it'd be interesting to be able to just tell it, you know, to turn on my Xbox and be even lazier and become that Wall-E human being. So they added that. They also added international language support, so now Korean, Japanese, and Arabic and all that stuff doesn't show up as just squares on your Xbox shit like it used to. You can actually properly have it as part of your gamer tag. So if you want to be a big weeaboo and have your name be whatever and actually have kanji on there, you can now. Before that wasn't an option.
That shit always pissed me off with the Zune.
Yeah, with this. All right.
What is this so much Japanese magic? It's like, here's all my squares songs.
I miss Zune.
Thank you, so do I. I miss my Zune.
Zune was awesome. I love that. Even though Guardians kind of made fun of it, the fact that they even referenced the Zune, I was still like, alright, I give you at least you referenced it. But so there's that. And they also added text filtering and searching, which is nice for people who have a million friends on I haven't run into that problem where I have so many friends where I'm just like, I gotta look for I'd imagine, say, if Dink was trying to search a user that just like a new student or something, that would probably be in handy. I don't know if that's a thing on PlayStation already, but other than that, I mean, accessibility options are accessibility options, so there's that. What?
You guys have friends?
Oh, God. Yeah, no, exactly. That's the thing.
What is this friend you see?
Yeah, that's the joke's on them. That's why I play single-player games all the time, because I have no one to play with. But yeah, there's that. Rust, for anyone who still plays that, is coming to PS4 next year. It's again, Rust came out during that time of all the big crazes of Ark and
is it still an
fucking
alpha?
Conan, and well, that's the thing, right? Is Rust ran into that issue of kind of getting stuck in early access forever. Yeah. So it's one of those things when So it's one of those things where, I don't even know if it's really out. I know Rust ran into a lot of problems during its development cycle, so there's that. But I imagine if it's coming to PS4, they are finally probably launching, is probably why this is a thing.
I think the fad's already,
But that's the problem, is it's too little too late. It's in the PUBG world of, even though it was one of the first, no one cares anymore. Whereas PUBG is pretty much a dead game, and Fortnite still exists, and that's just thriving. Minecraft has kind of done that, where Minecraft started very different. This is one thing that a lot of people don't remember, is when Minecraft was a single-player, procedurally generated game, and that's it. There was no multiplayer, no friend aspect to it. It's become quite a different thing, very much like Fortnite did. Mm-hmm. From when that was like a fucking survival horror, not survival horror per se, but like a team-based, kind of, that's changed a lot too.
Yeah, team-based, you build your little shit and you fight off little zombies or whatever.
Yeah, and then that's kind of changed.
Oh, yeah.
Dink, did you ever get into the persistent world survival evolution build your base games type of stuff like the ones we mentioned?
The closest one that I would probably say that I quote-unquote got into was Command and Conquer series, which seems to be long dead at this point in time. Yeah. But I never played Ark. I thought about playing Ark because I heard a lot of good things about it, but I never got around to actually trying it. So I'd probably say I'm not an expert on the subject unless we're talking more about base defense type games.
Right,
but
RTS isn't
I don't know the genre that well to really speak too much about it, unfortunately.
Fair enough. It's one of those genres that's always piqued my interest, but I just never really got into. Because I've always thought, because when I was growing up, I always thought the idea of having a persistent world was always interesting, right? Because, say in Rust or in Conan Exiles, which I can speak to for sure from spending a decent amount of time in those games, is that it was always cool that you put all this work into your world and your home, but when you were off for the day, you were at work, you could log on at night to play some friends and be like, Josh, we got raided. Fuck. All those iron ingots we just fucking farmed hours last night. Look at the back door. The whole back wall is blown up by fucking C4. Because in Rust, they had a very interesting thing where you started naked and very primitive. Mm-hmm. You built up with your bullshit rocks and stones, very basic pickaxes, to where you could have fucking M16s and shit where you, really evolved your gear. So I always thought that had a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
Whereas Ark has dinosaurs in it. They all kind of have their own thing that makes it unique. In Conan, you could summon dogs
Rust
and shit
did have
that.
those bears.
Yeah.
I have to say though, I played very little of Rust, but it was I probably had the most frightening online multiplayer experience with that, because I remember just chilling in my little hut at night, and a rando came up, and he's just like, "Hey man, what's going on?" And so we're just talking.
It's crazy to think that, because there's no real NPCs other than the mobs, the random animals. So everyone who's when you see someone hopping around your base or scoping, and you think they're casing your joint, they probably are, because it's a person.
Yeah.
Every time you run into someone in that game, it's a real person.
Yeah. So this guy was just chatting with me, and he was like,
hey, "Can I trust you?"
Yeah. So he's like, did you see that huge house on that hill? Let's fucking go raid it. Let's go.
And this guy's just gonna fucking backstab your ass.
I kept thinking that the entire time. I eventually was like, all right, cool. And I remember following him and having my gun ready just in case.
Yeah.
But eventually we went there, found there was nothing left, so I went back to my little hut, and he's all like, "Hey man, you're cool, so here's some materials." So he just gave me some items, but the whole time I was frightened.
That game definitely does, especially when you're playing with strangers, does have next level anxiety in terms of trust issues, because that is the type of game where most people will backstab you. Mm-hmm. It is a wasteland essentially in terms of that. So those games have always been interesting, but again, those games require a lot of time. It's just a shame. It's the same thing with MMOs. I want to get into Final Fantasy 14, but
Have fun being a DPS in queue for like hours.
I believe Xbox mentioned something. I didn't really research it because I didn't want to overload the docket because there's other stuff we need to get to. Mm-hmm. But I want to say Xbox did say they're working on getting 14 on there.
Oh, shit.
So
that'd be cool.
Did you play? You played 11 on 360?
I did. There was a time where I played 11 on 360 because I was having issues with my computer.
Mm-hmm. And they had crossplay, right?
Yes.
That's cool.
Because that's how Daniel played, and Noel and I would originally play on PC.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you could interact with everybody. There were even people on PS2.
Oh, that's
like, playing
right.
on
it was
there.
like that next. They even had next gen cross-platform or past and current gen.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
There's more games to do that. I know it's really hard. I know that's a coding nightmare.
Yeah.
But it's amazing when it happens. People are, God bless those devs that pulled that off.
Well, I think when they originally were making Final Fantasy 11, I think they were marketing it that it was going to be like the MMO for PS2.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably helped.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.
Path of Exile 2 was announced recently with a really cool trailer. If no one's played the original Path of Exile, it's basically a Diablo-like, except made by a company who doesn't hate free speech and doesn't hate Hong Kong. So with that being the case, Path of Exile 2 is coming out. It's going to be free to play again, but they did do one thing I like. I may not be a fan of microtransactions, but if your game's free, I can almost get on board with the whole, well, there's got to be a way to fund the thing. The good thing is they are not game-breaking microtransactions. They are purely cosmetic. And they did what I feel all games should do moving forward, is all your microtransactions in the first game are going to be carried over. So all your cosmetics will be ported forward into the new Path of Exile 2.
Yeah.
That's just got to be what it is. And Path of Exile was made by people who absolutely loved Diablo, especially Diablo 2 is what the game's build is based off of, which is still to this day considered the best Diablo game. So if you do want to play a game like that, you've been itching to do it, and you're trying to keep your your support of Hong Kong strong, you can play Path of Exile, and it is really good and free to play. So there's that. I had a test of my will this past week.
Oh yeah.
Where a Diva bag that I've had my eye on forever dropped to an insanely low price, and then I found out with the moral thing of, oh my god, this is the bag I've always wanted.
If you buy the merch, does that...
Yes!
Okay.
Fuck Blizzard. That does count.
Is it official Blizzard merch?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It's officially licensed.
Okay.
Loungefly and
just go to the flea market and buy the fucking...
No, because the thing is, I started having...
Mina es viva!
I started having the thought in my head of someone is going to somehow see a picture of me sporting a Diva bag and be free Hong Kong, huh?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to be like, no, I can explain. I only like Diva. I hate Blizzard, but there's that. And then on a minor report of Pokemon Sword and Shield and Jedi Fallen Order, they're fun. If you like Pokemon you're not butthurt about the Pokemon that are missing, apparently it's a pretty fun game. You got some cool mechanics in there. And then of course Jedi Fallen Order, it plays fine. MC Chris did a really weird review, and I just don't feel like MC Chris is like. Not that we're like certified.
Didn't you only get to play it for like a few hours after a show?
So there's that, right?
Yeah.
And then the problem also is the fact that he basically did the whole thing of, this isn't what I wanted, so it's a bad game. And I'm just like, but is it a bad game though?
Right. Yeah.
So he went on to say, like, it's like the
you
shittiest...
say to his credit, or not to his credit, but like, I mean, he's not a game reviewer. So.
He's not, but that's also probably why he shouldn't have wrote a game review.
Probably.
I wanted actually to try that game, but like I see EA and I'm like immediately turned off of most games.
So,
but this one sounds like they actually have done a good job on it, so I might actually pick it up.
That's only because of Respawn. And thankfully, it seems like a competently put together game. However, what it will, the crowd it will turn people off to are those who do want a more straightforward Star Wars game, because it is apparently, they did mention a while ago where I just like gagged, where they were just like, it's gonna be a Souls, it's gonna be the Dark Souls of Star Wars. Like someone from Respawn actually said that, and I wanted to hang myself immediately. But they really did draw inspiration from it, and apparently if you do enjoy Dark Souls, it's like a Dark Souls light in the sense it's not quite as hardcore, but they do take a lot of core mechanics of you can't just go in and try to beat them stupidly. Yeah. You have to play smart, and when you do get killed, your XP gets attached to that mob, and you got to go back and kill it to get your humanity. Your experience.
You mean
back.
your blood echoes? Wait.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they even have that.
I actually really enjoyed Dark Souls games, and as a Star Wars fan, that sounds like a dream come true for me. Like those two are mixed together, so like now I'm even more excited about it.
I think it's going to be your
jam for sure. Or anything saying that about it.
Yeah, so that's what the verdict was going to be: is that those who are expecting a Jedi power battles or some
Force Unleashed
Force Unleashed, some very casual swing crazy character action game is going to be sorely disappointed. But for those who do like Souls-likes and are looking for a competently put together one and just happen to like Star Wars, apparently this is a good game.
That's cool.
Apparently the cool mechanics with the little droid companion work really well. Yeah. Not a fan of how they're monetizing the skins you can get for that and doing all that nonsense, but microtransactions are just the meta of the gaming industry now.
It's like EA is like, you gotta give us something.
Exactly. So you see the EA in it still, but thankfully EA was smart enough to not fuck with Respawn in terms of the actual mechanics. So apparently pretty good game, especially if you're a fan of Souls-likes. So that's cool. And Star Wars. So that was good to hear.
Cool. I'll definitely check it out and maybe even put it on my channel if it gets demonetized. Or if it doesn't get demonetized, I mean.
Yeah,
I'd say go for it. What are you gonna make more Fire Emblem videos, by the way?
Well, they never got any views. They got I put them out and they got 135 views, and I was like, there's probably just not that much interest in it. But I mean, it's quite a swing, right, to go from Mortal Kombat to Fire Emblem, so I get it. But I wasn't really gaining subscribers or seeing any growth from it, so maybe I'll try another playthrough, because I have one more playthrough to do with, units I haven't really used, just to, know their stories and stuff.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know. I have no idea what to do with my channel at the moment. It's kind of just holding out and waiting until Injustice 3, where I can make money again, I guess.
There you go.
Man, well, let's see. MK11 came out earlier this year. So we got two more? 2021 should be, if following the way their releases have been, should be when Injustice 3 comes out.
Yeah, and Ed Boon just tweeted today saying that they're planning to support MK11 for a long, long time, which I don't know what his definition of long time is, because in the past it's been 8 months.
If Ed Boon wasn't such a liar, I would say that, I don't know exactly. Who knows what that is to Ed Boon?
Exactly.
I just got so many knee-jerk reactions in my mind. I don't want to open Pandora's box right now about whether MK11 being supported for a long, long time is a good or bad thing.
Yeah.
Right.
So when's the next Bonehawk podcast?
Yeah, there you go. There we go.
Yeah, that would be a good place to talk about that, because I've got opinions.
There you go. But yeah, you're right. There would be a Pandora's box, definitely, for sure, to open up now. But yeah.
Anyways,
speaking of a shitty video game... I'm just joking. No, speaking of Pandora's box of nightmares, EA has announced that they are going to go double down on Anthem. And they're going to try to save it somehow. Anthem, for those of you who...
oh no, baby, what are you doing?
Anthem? That's still a thing? What the hell? I haven't heard about that game in a year.
Exactly. So for those
it was a thing before it came out. And then released, it was no longer a thing.
Exactly. And that's the thing, right? So Anthem is the stillborn... For those of you who don't remember, it's the stillborn baby of EA, which just, died upon release. Yeah. It was just... It was dead before release, essentially, but, it was just bad. So, I already got bad vibes about it when BioWare, of all people, were like, yeah, we hear people don't give a fuck about stories, so we're just going to try to make a storyless game. Us, a company who thrives on great character development and storylines, is going to do a mindless Iron Man simulator. And I wouldn't say it was necessarily mindless. It was competently put together enough, but it was barren with no content.
Yeah.
So it was like a fixed Fallout 76, essentially. So with that being the case, it failed, obviously, upon launch, pulled disappointing numbers, then continued to disappoint people when they said that the roadmap was going to be delayed by 90 days, then indefinitely, and then they followed that up by saying it's going to go into EA Access, which is EA's $5 a month pass.
Yeah.
Now, when you're going to go double down, and you've already announced that the game is going to die in the graveyard of EA Access, where you have awful games like 3-year-old FIFA games and shit no one cares about, and probably Peggle's probably the most competent game on there. With that being the case, why? No one wants Anthem to be saved, so who are you appealing to?
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing. Like, most people I know had no interest in Anthem leading up to it. I did until they announced that they're not going to do the one thing that would have made Anthem somewhat, interesting, which, like, Laura Kate Dale from Jimquisition had said herself, that the game itself feels competent enough that if they had made it a single-player game with your Iron Man-esque powers and a very cool character creation, I'll give it that. With a BioWare story, it could have been cool. Not to mention the original title, which was the game was originally going to be called Javelin, which is the name of the characters you play as. Then they were just like, that sounds too cool, let's do and call it Anthem. So then
was that not like the name of like a classic Nintendo game, Javelin?
Yeah, I think it is actually. So yeah, but there was that, and it was just a train wreck. And now there's for some reason going to try to save it. Now, of course, they followed this announcement up by saying we also don't want They say they can't talk about it right now, which translates to we don't know what we mean by that.
But they got nothing.
They did went ahead and preemptively announced that it's going to be a thing. Now, here's the weird thing: is they said it's either going to be they're leaning on the title maybe being called Anthem Next, which was what they called No Man's Sky when it got resolved. So it's just like now you guys are just copying the homework. It's that meme of let me copy your homework, but don't. So it's one of those things where, but they just copied it directly. It's like, really, you're gonna do No Man's Sky next, now you're gonna do Anthem next? You're not the same developer, you know that, right? So it's just a weird thing. But the problem with this is, I feel like No Man's Sky doing a 180 and becoming a really good game has been so problematic in the last few years, where everyone is just like, I'm gonna be the next No Man's Sky. I'm gonna release complete shit, and then we're gonna turn it around. And it's just like, stop doing that.
Yeah.
Like, Anthem and Fallout 76 in the last year,
better.
are both big examples of the ones who did that. Thankfully, Anthem hasn't had the nerve to charge you $100 a year for something that's broken, but...
it just made it even more broken.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bethesda.
And of course, this is based on a Jason Schreier report of Kotaku. Jason Schreier is pretty reliable, so this was coming out of his whole deal. So he was talking about that. There are more details in the article I'm going to link below where they go on and on and on about imaginary stuff that they're going to do with it. But I almost don't want Anthem to succeed because, again, it's going to set a precedent. Now, if you have No Man's Sky and you have Lightning Strike twice with Anthem, that's just going to be a whole world of... It's already, like... scary where we're going in that direction of incomplete games. Do not make it a standard. Like, this would make it a standard if Anthem somehow pulls it off. So
release a shitty game and then make the project be like, it'll be better.
Yeah, not great.
I mean, technically, like, Fallout 76 is still doing that because didn't, like, Todd Howard even announced, like, this on launch, it's technically still in development. Well, it's like, why?
So what Todd Howard said, infamously, was... We knew Fallout 76 was not going to be a high Metacritic game.
Yeah.
Which translates to, we knew it wasn't going to be good. Mm-hmm. Which is a really weird thing. Now, of course, that's why he carefully phrased it in a stupid way, like, a high Metacritic game. You mean a bad game? Like, guess what happens when something has a low Metacritic score? It means everyone panned it and it's a bad game. Mm-hmm. And then he went on to say...
So I have a question about that.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
Wasn't there some drama about them, like, giving, like, companies giving, like, fake reviews and, like, telling all their employees to, like, give good reviews to games and stuff on these kind of sites? I think I heard something about that with movies and Rotten Tomatoes, and then I heard it was kind of coming into the gaming sector. I'm not an expert on the subject, so I don't want to say for sure, but I thought maybe their statement there might be kind of talking about that a little bit, because, I mean, how hard would it be for them to just be like, hey, you know, go on Metacritic and rate this a 10 out of 10 or whatever, you know?
Yeah, there's always the possibility of that. That's always something where it's hard to tell because the only people who come forward about it are those who didn't buy the bait. Yeah. You have YouTubers and actual reviewers in the sense of text-based reviewers who have said we've been bribed before and I turned it down. people like EA having been caught before, basically being an IGN friend.
Yeah.
And IGN has been busted several times, basically giving stuff high, for not direct cash transactions up front, but obvious support on the back end. So, I mean, that's definitely been a thing, and it's very possible. But it's even more possible in this case because Bethesda is the company that gets everyone drunk at the Bethesda conference panels at E3 at least, and has them. They're the ones who become the hecklers because they're so fucked it up, and they actually have confirmed been people who just they're just feeding those people free drinks at the front to get really hyped during Bethesda's panels. So I mean, Bethesda plus the fact that is a thing, very likely. I no confirmed stories in regards to Fallout 76 or Anthem in regards to that, but very likely. Very likely.
And of course, if you're very vocal against them, good luck getting that review copy.
Yes. And that's the biggest problem is that, that's where the industry really does try to pull their weight around is they basically go... It's Jim Sterling, for example, is blacklisted by almost every major developer because he's so damn honest and a bit, off the wall sometimes with some of his tastes and reviews, where he has been blacklisted by most major developers, where Jim uses his own funds now to buy a lot of these games.
Yeah.
That's why he talked about how he straight up refuses to review some... Not he doesn't review anymore, he does impressions, but he has basically said, now if I have no interest in a game, I'm not even going to do impressions on it, because unless it's something that I feel is even worth talking about, in the sense of he didn't care about Call of Duty, but he still played it. He didn't have any interest in whatever other games he's been Contra Rogue Core, but there are games where he feels like he has to get in there. But if it's a game where it's just neutral and it would be his own honest opinion, he's like, I didn't waste my money with that because I do buy a lot of these out of pocket now. Yeah. So. Yeah, and that's crazy because if you think about it, that is a way that the industry is kind of controlling their reviews, because by not giving copies, one thing that the industry's been notorious for lately is not giving out review copies until the day before it comes out, which is not enough time for anyone to really digest it and give a review, so it makes those reviews seem a little invaluable. Yeah. So, it's not great.
Yeah, and then of course if you're vocally against them, then hey, guess what? You're giving them their money.
Exactly. So the industry is in a very strong place right now. Where let's face it, even companies like Blizzard, we talked about it last time. So not to beat that dead horse, but they got what they wanted with that half-ass apology. We pointed out all the flaws in J. Allen Brack's apology. And why it wasn't a genuine... It was a non-apology, as I like to phrase it. Because it was, and it still worked though, because Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2's anticipation, CPM, and advertising stuff is all back to normal. A lot of the Liberate Hong Kong party has dwindled so much. If you go on Twitter now and you search Blizzard's hashtag, which was originally full of protesters and people that were just, oh my god, I couldn't believe Blizzard. It's very seldom now. You probably just see me tweeting over and over again, and it's just my tweet perpetually reappearing.
You just keep retweeting your own tweet.
Because unfortunately, everyone's just given up now because he said sorry. And the way that they really tweaked that is most headlines, whether it was Ars Technica or Polygon or whatever. What did all the headlines say? They all said, he says apology, he apologized. But if you read a lot of those articles, they all talked about how it was a non-apology. Yeah. But since statistically, most people are just headline reactors and not... and that was the windscreen. And not article readers, it's a big problem. It was the whole social experiment I did with the Melty Blood episode. No one listened to the thing where we go, Melty Blood's a perfectly fine game. They just got mad at my podcast description and title, where I made fun of Melty Blood and fucking
players being in the bathroom.
Jabali's fucking stupid tweet about the bathrooms being the appropriate place to play Melty Blood. So with that being the thing, it just proved that point. And this was exactly, and that was exactly the whole point. And what Blizzard took advantage of is all they had to do was give a half-ass apology that was going to appear in headlines, and they got what they wanted. It's sad, but that's just what it is. Speaking of sad and just what it is, Stadia is going to be coming out soon, so that's going to be the main topic of the day. If you do want to get in on that conversation, you can hit us up on our social medias or disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com. Once again, that's disconnectedcastmail@gmail.com. And so, Stadia is right around the corner. Weird enough, it still feels like it's just... One, it shouldn't be a thing, right?
Yeah.
And then it almost feels like we were just... It just sounded like we were just talking about it being such a far future, or no one... Maybe we just don't care about it so much, it's them so far. But it's getting ready to launch, and boy, does it have a lot of asterisks in that launch. So, we've already talked about how the idea itself of streaming games...
Yeah.
To play
Yeah.
in real time is already this like unrealistic pipe dream because internet just sucks in most places. Unless you're living in fucking gaming cafes in Korea or Japan, your internet probably just can't handle it. The amount of requirements it's going to take of data that you're going to be pumping through, especially when this nonsense idea of 4K 60 frames is going to be coming through your internet streaming a game at 4K.
Telecom.
I think a lot of people are going to be like quite surprised at how that turns out. Who have huge
insane.
hopes for this thing.
Yeah. Absolutely, the fact that there is still a market of people that are anticipating this is absurd, and it's amazing what the Google CEO said. Where when asked, because they did have that press conference a while back when people were like, "What is the Stadia?" and they didn't really answer and all this stuff. One of the non-answers he gave was. When people were like, well, what about data caps? A lot of internet starts getting... ISPs will start staggering you when you pass X cap, even at a very unlimited plan. And his response was, well, internet companies like to make money, right? They'll probably just uncap you because they'll get what's going on. And internet ISPs will just be friendly and raise the caps because they'll be like, you know, this is the digital age of Stadia. And everyone's going to be streaming games now. That's just the new meta. So they're just going to have to deal with it and know that consumers just need more bandwidth. Yeah. And, you know, we feel it'll be a smart business decision on their point to just start raising caps for no reason. Those obviously was like what he was saying. And it's, you know, very boiled down. I made it very literal, a lot of the stuff that he said when he used a lot more technical mumbo jumbo. But that's basically what he was saying. He's basically saying ISPs will learn to get with it because Stadia is the future. And it's like, no,
fuck that. I mean, the fucking Verizon put the data cap usage on the fucking firefighters when they were trying to put out a fire in California like years ago. Like, no.
Right, exactly.
And their fucking excuse was, oh, the person on the phone didn't have the proper training. Because they had this thing where apparently if there is an emergency where, like, you know, the fucking firefighter is needing to expand their data usage so that they can use their equipment, that they are supposed to allow them to have, you know, unlimited data usage. But the person on the phone was just like, nope. We can upgrade your plan, though. But that shouldn't be a problem in the first place.
And it shouldn't, right. So... And this, for those who aren't keeping score, this is all stuff... I haven't even got to the shitstorm that we're about to walk into right now. This is all stuff that we have already known up to this point and why we knew that Stadia was just not going to work. You know, I think Pat from Castle Super Beast, I think his prediction of Stadia not even making out of 2020 is absolutely on point. I do not see this moving on beyond its launch year, essentially. Because for those who are part of the founders, you guys are going to be the only ones playing it in this next coming up because the real rollout isn't until early next year. Okay, so we just talked about half-baked shit at launch and stuff like that. This isn't even half-baked, is Stadia rolling out soon. So let's go through what isn't going to be available at launch that Stadia has promised will eventually become a Stadia thing. First of all, on day one, PC Chrome gameplay will not support 4K HDR or 5.1 surround sound. They will be added at some point in 2020 for PC players, then later roll out to Chromecast and mobile users and otherwise. So PC is going to be the only ones pretty much getting it as of next year, and probably, who knows. What that means essentially is if this survives beyond the launch period, it'll eventually happen. Next. One of the things they bragged about, Stream Connect, where you and your favorite content creator streams will start to be linked, and you can kind of just like hop in there. Like if Dink's streaming on for some fucking reason on Stadia, and Josh is like, I want to play Dink can like shoot you out an invite, and now your stream and his stream merge, and then you guys have a baby together of a stream, and now the streams can just start, the content creators can start to connect, and their streams start to merge, and then the audiences, you're one amalgamation of audiences now. Now Josh's audience and Dink's audience are all watching together this thing.
You mean to tell me those madmen are actually daring to cross the streams?
Essentially.
Never cross the streams.
That's weird. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Don't worry, you don't have to feel about it at all, because that is going to be TBA sometime, probably never. Because that is one of the things they announced as a feature that has no ETA. So that's a thing that's not coming at launch either. State share, where you're going to be able to essentially... It's a weird save file thing where... It's such a stupid concept. Why are they wasting their time with this stupid shit? What state share was supposed to essentially be is I could be playing... my game on my end, and I'm doing Until Dawn, and then we're doing like a co-op like series, and then I'm done. Okay, I'm done now. All right, Josh, you're gonna continue it on your stream, so you have access to my save file, and now we have a weird cloud crossover where you can pick up where I left off on your stream.
But why? Unless you're doing a thing where, like, maybe you and a bunch of friends are... Yeah, like, so, just sticking with the scenario of Until Dawn, maybe if you're doing, like, an online party thing where... But wait, I think they already did that with the, Man of Medan. Yeah, where like each character or each player is like a certain
control
character.
some out, so they can split parties and you play one side of the other person.
Yeah, so I was gonna say like maybe
that's the way that actually works.
But which reminds me, I need to pick up that fucking game.
Hell yeah.
That sounds dumb.
Yeah, so what Google Stadia for some reason is really trying to push, for those who don't quite get what's going on, because that is a bunch of nonsense that's spewing out of my mouth and via Google, is essentially their dream is that streamers and content creators will start co-oping. There's going to be like the content creator world will start being this co-op multiplayer world
as they stamp
in the content creator world,
like upcoming or like up and coming content creators on YouTube. Yeah. Thanks, Google, you pricks.
It's really weird. Don't worry, that's not coming either. The next thing,
that won't be at launch either.
I feel like this whole idea is problematic in creating monopolies. Like, I feel like at the heart of it, it seems nice that like a bigger creator could like pull up a smaller creator.
Exactly.
And then if you get like two big creators that do this for each other, and then they just eliminate all of the smaller creators by doing it.
Yeah. Exactly.
It sounds like it's a nice idea, and I get where they're going from it, but that's not quite how the world works.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of monopolies, all this stream content creator crossover stuff only works with YouTube and YouTube streaming. So, speaking of monopolies, Google is only keeping that, of course, within the Google ecosystem.
Okay.
So, of course.
So, if you're a Twitch affiliate or you're on Mixer, fuck off.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, there's that. Next thing that will be
Google
limited.
Stadia has no place for you, Ninja.
Basically. In that sense, Ninja doesn't have much to worry about in about a year. So, there's that. Now, the next thing that will be available limitedly at launch. So, of course, since you're going to be playing stuff through your Google World, Google Assistant, imagine just Google Assistant being integrated to all your... it'll be, at launch, it'll be able to turn on your TV and start a game.
Doesn't.
That's all Google Assistant can do at launch on Google Stadia, which is already what it does now.
Yeah.
So
I was going to say, that's kind of...
Why is that a feature Google that they're adding to this?
I love this one. This one had me double over laughing. So one thing they bragged about is being able to have a family account, right? Josh, I'm on a family account with my literal family, but I could have one with like me, Josh, and Mal, throw together, and we go all pitch in on a family plan for Google. Mm-hmm. Family sharing would allow one of us, to just buy Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Then you could play it and I could play because we're all part of the same family plan. that won't be available at launch. So you need to buy each of your kids a copy of Assassin's Creed Odyssey if they're each going to play it on their Stadias. Because family sharing is, for the time being, going to be added sometime in the next year. So you can't actually do that, even though that's what they bragged about, only having to buy a game once and playing it with your whole family. So that's not a thing.
This is the part where Mallory and I come in. Well, you can buy a physical copy of a game.
Yeah, what?
And just hand it over when you're not playing it.
I got eliminated so many fights in my house.
For those of you who were ready
Here's DuckTales. Have fun.
For those of you who are ready to fire up your...
out of circulation.
For those of you who are ready to fire up your Stadia service and go ahead and get those achievements going, achievements will not be available at launch for Google Stadia. The idea for Google Stadia's achievement system is that it will be implemented sometime in the next year, and if you were to beat a game completely, you would retroactively get your achievements once they implement those into the game. So achievements won't even be...
I feel like Lando Calrissian.
Why are they doing this? Just delay it.
Exactly. It's
Google.
It's definitely not ready. Also, several UI elements will not be ready at launch for Google Stadia, so some menus may not function at launch. Here's another really good one.
What a great launch.
So they talked about this whole thing working with... so basically, if you don't have phones, guys, because you hate Diablo Immortal... Anyways... for those of you who are hoping to play it on your Chromecast and all that stuff, because that's one of the things they mentioned, sticking up your Bluetooth controller to your Chromecast and everything, that won't work either. Only the Chromecasts from the Founders unit will work with Google Stadia. Your Chromecast that you own already will eventually be updated sometime in the next year to have an over-the-air update, which will allow that Chromecast, which is literally the exact same thing that just doesn't have the over-the-air update yet, to eventually be able to play on your Chromecast, the exact same one you have at home already. You need to buy this new one that's launching with the Stadia in the Founders Pack to play it on your Google Chromecast Ultra.
That meme where the kid is just like laying on the floor and like questioning life. That's what I want to do with Google right now.
Let's see, I just feel like Lando Calrissian in that Robot Chicken sketch.
Yes.
This deal keeps getting worse all the time.
Google
Stadia is like,
basically,
family plan will not be during launch. I changed the arrangement.
Another perk that they bragged about for the founders and early adopters of Stadia, God bless them, for people they really hate and they wanted to give the free trial to. The 3-month Stadia Buddy Pass, which would allow you to play Stadia games with an a friend of your choice, will not be available at launch. That is coming about 2 or 3 weeks after launch, in which you will be able to give a friend of your choice their Buddy Pass and wait 3 weeks after launch to play a game with them finally for a few months.
So Josh, I just won't be able to play Stadia with you. I'm sorry.
Damn.
They will
looking forward to that.
They will be holding an AMA to possibly update some of these things about anything, or might have something to say about this. So look out for that. Right. So what was the other main one? Of the main. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say. So when is this glorious train wreck? I mean, launch date.
The 19th.
What was it? The next couple of weeks.
19th.
19th.
Yeah.
Oh, wait,
2 days from now.
2 days.
2 days.
Okay.
Fuck yes.
All right. So what was
Oh, really? Holy shit!
Yeah.
Gotta get on this train, man.
Here we go.
Man, you're gonna have to pick it up for all those Google Stadia
Okay,
students.
and then what's the other thing?
Can't wait to play MK11 on Google Stadia, where I can't play anybody online.
Exactly. So there's that, right?
Oh my
And
God,
then,
Google will
You
demonetize
can
you
give your
right
buddy
then.
pass
Right,
to somebody
basically.
and wait 3 weeks.
So there. Okay. So yeah, waste 3 of the 3 weeks of that 3 months waiting for them.
Yeah.
So you have that, right? And then so here's the other thing. So one of the things they bragged about is, well, the thing about Stadia is it's a platform that isn't restricted to a single console. So you can play on your phone, get home, hook up to your Chromecast, get on the go, have your laptop at school, switch seamlessly between that. That won't even work at launch. The multi-platform will only work with Google Pixel phones only and Chromecast OS tablets at launch. All other Android platforms, which is also owned by Google, will not be compatible with this until sometime in 2020, in which this will already be dead. But yeah, as of this year, till the end of the year, for sure, only Pixel, Google phone device, Google phones and Google tablets will be the only ones compatible with Stadia's multi-platform play. So there's that. The Google Stadia's controller itself will only work with Chromecast Ultra at launch, despite being a open source Bluetooth controller. So to use it with, you can use it with other PC and systems through a hardwire connection charging cable that comes with it. But the wireless functionality is gimped to Chromecast Ultra only, and the Founders Edition Chromecast Ultra only. Not the Chromecast Ultra that I already have, but the one that comes with the controller. So there is that. You will need a USB-C type cable to use it with anything else. Which...
This hurts my head so much.
Oh, and finally, the epic library of the 30 to 40 games that they promised would be introduced to Stadia has also been delayed. 12 of the 40 titles are going to be appearing at launch. The rest of them have been delayed without any real official release dates, including Jedi Fallen Order, which was supposed to be one of the launch titles for Google Stadia, has announced that they're probably not going to bother working a port for that. But they're going to have what they consider a slightly reduced window of games at first to only be expanded going into 2020. So let's get into what those 14 games, or 12 games, excuse me, Jesus, I almost gave them too much credit. Let's find out what those 12 amazing games. Remember, this is a new console, so you'd imagine new games, right? You would think. So, here we go. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is like a year plus old already.
Solitaire.
Destiny 2, the collection, only included with Stadia Pro subscription, not the standard. The only exclusive they have, period, a game called Guilt, which looks pretty cool. It's a little platformer, Guilt with a Y. Okay. So there's that. Just Dance 2020. A game called Kine. I have no idea what the fuck that one is. Mortal Kombat 11. Because there is nothing better. There is nothing better than streaming Mortal Kombat 11 with a billion bits of latency. Who doesn't love playing a fighting game where your input lag is 20 times worse than any other platform?
Hey, fun fact though. Actually, Just Dance 2020 is the last game that's being made for the original Wii.
There you go.
The more you know.
Yeah.
And also one of the last games being made for Stadia, which is going to die in a few months.
That's good.
Just Dance for a twofer there.
So there's that. What else do we go? Oh, Samurai Showdown. Good luck playing that already salt-inducing game with insane 10-second input lag.
Jesus Christ.
So that's going to be a thing. Red Dead Redemption 2, a game that spans 2 Blu-ray discs, is going to be streamed over your internet for your playing pleasure. So that's going to be there. Rise of the Tomb Raider, like a fucking 3-year-old game. Yeah. Rise of the Tomb Raider. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, like a fucking year-and-a-half-old game.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's too bad Street Fighter V is Sony exclusive, because that would be fucking hilarious. Having Street Fighter V that already has bad netcode and bad button delay being on Google Stadia.
That would be amazing. You would have to wait till tomorrow to register that punch. It would be insane. That would be crazy. Oh, right. So, Rise of Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Also, Tomb Raider Definitive Edition. That 6-year-old game. And then a game called Thumper. That's going to be the launch selection right there. 3 Tomb Raider games. 2 fighting games. And then whatever the fuck else I listed. What the fuck? Okay. But they did say, fear not, 14 additional titles will drop before the end of the year. Those titles include Borderlands 3, Attack on Titan 2. That game's 2 years old.
What? That's so what? Why Attack on Titan 2?
The brand new Darksiders Genesis will be launching on there.
What a way to reach a massive audience. Attack on Titan 2. Hey, weebs! Remember Attack on Titan?
Don't worry, it keeps going with Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, which is already old.
Not even Fighters?
Not even Fighters. No, Fighters is not on here, although I can only imagine what those matches would be like.
The most relevant Dragon Ball game right now.
Continuing on with Farming Simulator 2019, which came out last year, as well as Final Fantasy 15, which I can only imagine streaming that fucking game also. It would be fucking absurd. Football Manager 2020, which came out a few months ago. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, because people give a fuck about that piece of shit. Grid.
Football Manager? Isn't that like every football game ever released?
No, I think Football Manager is actually like soccer.
Yeah, it's the soccer one, yeah. But still.
Yeah.
Oh, oh, like that.
Yeah, because only
the
like,
version of football. My apologies.
Right,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry. Could you, I was thinking of like the Madden series.
Yeah,
my bad.
Yeah, which that basically is.
Yeah, because you that's so weird when they added that. People were like, oh, hell yeah. I was like, so you get to play fantasy football on your Madden. Like, you're already playing fantasy football on your Madden by playing Madden.
Right? Like doubling down on fantasy football.
Basically. And then, of course, we also have Grid, which is like 6 years old. Metro Exodus, which, I mean, that's fine. I mean, like, that might run okay. NBA 2K20, because... yeah, you really want to play against someone in a sports game. Is just like a fighting game. You want to play a sports game with that much input lag.
Yeah.
That's going to be great. Rage 2, Trials Rising, and Wolfenstein Youngblood. So...
the worst Wolfenstein game?
Yeah, objectively the worst Wolfenstein game. So it's one of those things where it's just like... if you already were not hyped for the Stadia, hearing that list... of either old or games that will play horribly on the system.
I don't know, man. Attack on Titan 2.
I know, I just really gotta get back into Attack on Titan 2. I'm sorry.
It's just weird. Like, what is this demographic? Who chose these games for the launch?
They couldn't get a Naruto game?
No, God, no.
They couldn't get Jump Force?
That'll probably be
like
next
a
year.
more, like, generic... no, fucking Attack on Titan 2. These are the pillars of the weeb games.
Now, we are
Dragon Ball and
so,
Attack on Titan.
What's insane about all this, as absurd as all this is already, is the fact that Google, who in North America at least, has probably the best and fastest ISP pound for pound in terms of fiber optics. At their press conference earlier this year, when they tried to run Stadia, they could barely run it on unhindered, unshared Google Fiber. So how do they expect people with Comcast or otherwise...
because they'll just be smart enough.
Exactly, yep. That's basically what they said about that.
On their own. They wouldn't want to make their customers upset.
So we were talking about staggering and all that stuff too. Here's the insane thing. Google Stadia... on an average, is expected to gouge 20 gigabytes an hour from regular use. Do you know how many ISPs cap it?
That's
very close to, like,
I think that's half of my mobile data plan.
20 gigs an hour? That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, making up for lost connections and getting back on and how many times they're going to have to resend the info. Yeah, they're expecting an average of about 20 gigabytes an hour on average. They said some things may be a little bit better at 15.5 gigs an hour. But they said that probably not. And that's, of course, running on their top-of-the-line 4K with 5.1 surround. Now... limiting to it, which in the settings, which won't be available during launch.
There's the kicker.
If you limit it to 720
really
with stereo audio, you are still going to be running into 4.5 gigabytes an hour, running at 720 with stereo. So,
Jesus Christ.
No.
Go home, Stadia, you're drunk.
We didn't even talk about the main thing, is the fact that you have to buy all these games wholesale, by the way. Everyone has that misconception that this is Netflix for games. For those of you who are still under that misconception, this is a platform like, well, it's unlike, well, it's not a real one, obviously, but it is like Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. You have to buy the license. You have to buy these. So you're going to be spending $60 on MK11 to play it on there. you are going to be
And then
paying
once the
$60 to
Stadia-
play Red Dead Redemption 2 on there.
And then once this thing, like, eventually just fucking flops and dies, guess what? You just fucking wasted that money.
Yeah,
on
no,
that shit.
it goes into the air. Because this is an extreme case of what we talked about in the past of there is no physical option.
Yeah.
And then B, this dies with the platform. They, of course, have been asked this on several AMAs, to which they said nothing. Because they just kind of ignored those questions, because fuck addressing that nightmare of a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
They did give some roundabout answers, and in all realisticness, they tried to handle it as best as possible,
Every
giving answers
investment
like...
comes with a risk.
Giving answers like, we're sure we
could
could figure out something, and all this stuff, but...
I'm gonna stick to my Xbox and my Game
This
Pass.
is just slated.
May as well. Yeah, may as
like,
well.
I'm not changing.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you really think about it, you're paying how much are Xboxes nowadays? Like $500?
Depending. The Xbox
Right.
One X is like $4.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And the PS4 Pro's $4.
So let's say you get your Xbox X, you pay $400. The Game Pass is like $15 a month. You're
No
fine.
brainer.
You're fine. You're fine.
Absolutely no brainer. Yeah, no, it's insane.
And mine works. Like,
Yeah, you do you have a 4K TV? Ooh.
because I can
Guess
get
what?
4K.
You don't have to fucking wait.
Right? Jesus Christ, dude.
So my prediction here is that Google Stadia will be a success, but it will ditch the gaming part of it within probably a year to 2 years, and it will end up being a streaming platform like Twitch or Mixer, and then exist and try and get the market share there. Like, they'll realize that this whole streaming games thing wasn't as easy as they kind of thought it was, but the streaming, like, they seem to really be putting a lot of emphasis on, like, the streaming and how that goes. So I think they'll probably just ditch the games altogether and just focus on making a streaming platform to compete, because streaming on YouTube fucking sucks. I've tried it a couple times, and it's just, there's no real benefit to it. Even if someone donates to you on like a YouTube stream, they still take the same amount of money off of that.
Correct.
So if someone gives you $10, they're giving you like whatever, $1 or $2 to YouTube, and you only see the rest of it. Whereas on Twitch, it's all coming to you.
Yes.
So I would imagine they'll probably kind of play around with some streaming stuff with Stadia, and then Stadia will eventually move to a streaming platform and then ditch the games altogether. This is just from what I've heard about this conversation. I don't know a whole lot about Stadia outside of that they wanted to just be a competitor in a gaming console war kind of thing, or get rid of consoles kind of thing. So, but from listening to everything I've heard tonight, that's kind of the assumption of where I think they might end up going. A failure in a short run, but maybe kind of coming up as a streaming platform in the long run, because it is Google at the end of the day, so they have the money and the resources
Absolutely.
to throw at it. And it's not a market that they've really tried to push.
Right.
You know, YouTube streaming was very, very... They didn't invest a whole lot in it, so... It'll be, I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this thing.
Couple
I
days.
may or may not try it out when it launches, but, I mean, obviously, like you guys, I'm super skeptical about everything that I'm hearing here.
Yeah.
Why are you skeptical?
But,
Did you not hear all
Sounds like
these great things?
a great deal
Yeah.
to go in.
Yeah, no, it's just absurd that how can you, honestly, like, I know it's Google literally the kings of abandoning projects, because you look at their fucking graveyard list, it's huge. They are not good with follow-through, especially worse with support.
Google Glasses.
Exactly, like Google Glass.
Bring back Google Glass.
Now, it's one of those things where you really think about it, right? As a company, say you're, whatever rung of the company you're at, how do you not go through this list and go, it's not ready yet?
This is fine.
Yeah, how do you just go,
It'll be okay. We got this.
Roadmaps.
Oh, and by the way...
But I also wonder how many of their projects they went through in this exact same way that actually ended up working for them.
That's
That's
true,
not
too.
anything that I know about, but
Yeah.
like maybe YouTube, for example, like if you looked at YouTube's initial launch and people were laughing, like, how the hell is this going to work?
Yeah.
Then they'll look at that,
They eventually
And-
purchased YouTube, though.
Yeah, YouTube was acquired.
Right,
it was actually
right,
done
okay.
first.
Gotcha.
I mean,
So I mean, maybe
nobody
something like
uses
that, where
Google
like maybe
Plus.
they're like
Nobody
they have
uses
this
Google
idea and the
Hangouts.
games don't work out, and they're like, "Fuck it, we're buying Mixer." They just go
Yeah.
from there, you know. I don't know. It's interesting for me just to think about how many things actually work, because they're fucking Google at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have a project like this where it's just like, let's just put out this shitty little project and see how it does, and then it ends up being quite successful. I don't know.
I mean, as a testament to what you're saying, I think the best example of that is Android OS. When Google first launched Android OS to compete with Apple, it was way inferior back in the day.
Yeah.
Now it can definitely stand toe to toe in terms of resource management as well as being feature rich. One could argue much more capable than iOS. But it did start off as that pet project, which was kind of laughed at first because Android phones, especially the original Android 1.0 or even the beta ones, they ran so shit and were really bad phones compared to the iPhone at the time. You're right. Who's to know that they may not be able to salvage it and either turn it into something else or somehow pull a fucking 180 miracle and pull it off somehow.
I think it's definitely a safer bet that they're going to move the goalpost rather than stick to what.
Absolutely, I think that would be most realistically, of course. The other thing that Stadia is going to do is if a game is released on it that does not natively 1080 or 4K, they're just going to letterbox crop it. They're not going to make any effort to adjust the aspect ratio. They're just going to letterbox the flaws to make it fit into the thing. So they just zoom in and then letterbox the flaws around it, which will make some games look like shit.
I'm like fucking.
Yeah, but the whole thing, on top of the big pile of shit, the worst part about it is the fact that people have to remember that you're still going to be buying the games. That's the worst part. Yeah. If it was like part of their $10 a month subscription, whatever. It still sounds like shit.
They do have a subscription, don't they?
They do.
Yeah.
So they have a free one, and then they have a subscription-based one, which they claim. The Stadia Pro users will have earlier access to new features, as well as being able to maybe get a gamer, actually in their words, maybe start to roll out a game or two like Xbox or PlayStation does for free. Maybe they'll eventually do that.
That's where you get your buddy code.
Fuck.
Your $10 subscription.
It's so dumb. You pay a monthly service on top of having to buy the game, on top of all this other bullshit.
Yeah, now to be fair, the service itself is optional. You can just go ahead and buy the game.
Okay.
But
there's that at least.
It's still awful. I just can't, like I said, I'm just in awe. Of all the shitty stuff we've talked about on the podcast since we launched in February, of all the shitstorms that have come out, this is definitely a really bad one. And it's just, again, you're just marching in front of a loaded gun towards it and getting closer and closer, and you just don't care. Mm-hmm. Again, they definitely have the money. They're, this isn't going to sink Google.
Yeah. They'll be fine.
But it's an expensive pet project, and to just what's the deadline? It's not like they're trying to launch when the PS5 and Project Scarlet launches. You know what I mean? Like, if they pushed up the window because the new Xbox and PlayStation are coming out, they're like, this is the gen we're part of, and we're getting in now. That would be one thing, right? But you're jumping in at the end of a life cycle, and then where Nintendo's console is always in the middle for some reason. Like, Nintendo always launches their consoles in the middle of generations, so they've always had that weird thing there. But Stadia is diving head into the end of a generation and the beginning of another, and just pull, you know what I mean? Like, not that this would have still been any more realistic or better to launch anytime soon until internet gets fixed. Yeah. Because that's just a big problem. You're so dependent on high-level, high-speed internet that most of the world isn't there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just really, really bad. Like, the fact that there's going to be 2 fighting games launching on there, I just feel like that's objectively the worst type of game to play on this platform.
Probably. Most likely.
No stick compatibility either. So there's that also. No. Because there are no, in the Chromecast, it's going to be all Bluetooth, so there's no controller ports or anything like that. So, I mean, if you have a wireless stick, I guess that would work. But that's yet another level of latency. But it still has to
be, but then it also still has to match that OS or whatever.
Correct. Right? Which they're probably maybe release their own fight sticks eventually, if they last that long. I don't know. To me, it just doesn't sound like it's, I think that, Dink, you brought up some very interesting points. You did a little bit of more optimistic or more kind of giving them benefit of the doubt in terms of what they could potentially do to save the trash fire without obviously not admitting the fact that it obviously is not going to be great. But I don't know where they could possibly go with all this. Like, it just seems like already a loss. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't seem like it's going to make it out of 2020 alive. I'd be very hard pressed to believe that, you know? Well, I'm very curious to hear the reported numbers and how many people jumped on board with this. Because almost every gaming outlet of all types has basically said this is going to be a trash fire.
Yeah.
All articles basically just point to, you know, it's not like one of those weird 50-50 where Jim Sterling says something, but IGN and Polygon say this. Like, everyone's pretty much universally like, nope, not going to be a thing. So, we'll see. In a couple of days. I definitely know it's going to be on the docket next week.
Yeah.
So, there's that.
Oh, man, I hope there's going to be some
we got A-Day.
Some streamers or whatever that are specifically going to be trying it out. That'd be funny to see what happens.
Yep. All right. Any closing comments on Stadia for anyone? I think we kind of that horse is mutilated at this point.
We'll have to have an update.
Yeah, I don't have high hopes for it, but I think I might try it out just because I try out most new things.
Hey, there you go. And it's good to be open-minded like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of an optimist, so you know I don't expect much, but I hope for the best. So I'll probably try. Maybe just MK11 and see how it goes.
I would love to watch that video, man, for sure. But yeah.
Can you stream that?
I don't know.
No, you don't want him to stream on top of that. Could you imagine him streaming Stadia, streaming MK11 of him playing it on stream? Oh my god. I wouldn't even know what's happening. The commentary would be all off and all this stuff. It'd be really weird. But
I don't have high hopes for streaming it.
What are the lobbies going to be?
I'll try it at least, I guess. I don't know what else to say but that.
But yeah, if he ends up making a Stadia video, or even better, an MK11 Stadia video, you guys will be able to check that out in the description for the podcast below, where we'll be linking all that stuff. We really appreciate you, Dink, for coming on. So we do appreciate it. It's been fun.
It has been.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a lot of fun.
And for those of you who made it to the very end,
thanks for listening.
There you go. Because, man.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah, that's true. But, yep. So there's that. We'll see you guys next week. I think next week we're going to have cosplayer Luca on here. So we're going to be having her and seeing what she thinks about Stadia, which is probably, she thinks nothing of it because I doubt she'll even be interested in fucking Stadia at all. But it'll be interesting. Maybe she keeps track of it. We'll see. But alright then. Anyways, you can catch us where it's totally Monday, every Monday, at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we will catch you guys next week. Until then, see ya.
Bye.
Bye.